Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the virtual Latina style business series, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Let's welcome Latina style President and CEO, Robert Bard.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robert Bard with Latina Style, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you. New Mexico, Albuquerque Business Series it's a wonderful place for us to be. We hope that we could have done this in person, but we look forward to doing it next year in person. Um, all those celebrations that go on in Albuquerque, we're going to have to experience them virtually today. Like everybody else is experiencing everything these days, it seems virtually. We are here to work with you and specifically with Latina entrepreneurs and make sure that the conditions really do not jeopardize your business and that you're able to succeed no matter what. We're delighted to have with us a number of very, very prominent New Mexicans and non-New Mexicans that are joining you today for today's event. New Mexico happens to be a very special place for me personally. It goes, just to demonstrate, I was one of the few adopted New Mexicans in Washington, D.C. when I lived there by the New Mexico Society. Whenever they had major celebrations, which they did often in New Mexico, I was delighted to have been invited and taken as one of their own. I became kind of Hispanic in a way when Governor Jerry Apodaca decided to take me on as his protege. And for a few years, the governor and I got to travel all over the nation, meeting all the influential Latinos and Latinas across the country. And he was a very important part in the success of Latina Style and in the success of my personal professional career. So, like I said, New Mexico is very special. Clara Apodaca was, like a godmother. She took incredible care of us. So for all my New Mexican brothers and sisters, we're delighted to be here with you today and delighted to have the chance to spend some time with you all. We bring in you the Latina Style Business Series in an effort to really ameliorate whatever impact they're feeling because of the situations we're facing today. We're facing a situation that is unprecedented all over the world, but we will come through it. We will find the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully all of us will come out stronger. And when we come back next year, because we will do it next year in person in New Mexico, we'll be able to toast and celebrate and be able to even dance to all the great songs that we experience whenever we go to New Mexico. So this program we launched it in 1998. We haven't, we have visited nearly 130 cities across the United States, and more than 39,000 Latinas have been part of the program. What we have found through the years is the incredible resilience and the incredible strength that the Latina business owner has, and the Latinas in general. We're concerned that in addition to all the other responsibilities you had doing it all previously, now you have to also, take care of the education of your children. A lot of them, are still going to school at home. So you became teachers at the same time that you became business owners. I mean, while you've been being business owners and while you're being leaders. So for all the Latinas and for all the moms, and thank you so much for all the work that you do. The work that we do with Latina Style, it's very special. And we could not do it without the partnership of amazing companies that really are interested in protecting and developing the resources for the Latina community. And this company that is with us today is Nationwide Insurance. Nationwide has been a partner of Latina Style for 8 years. We have traveled all over the country with them. They are doing incredible work in supporting the community at all kinds of different levels. And Nationwide just got named to the Latina Style 50, our top 50 corporations for Latinas to work for in August. So it's a company that is involved at every level. So it is my great pleasure to be able to introduce you to our Nationwide representative, Nicole Schlosser. Nicole Schlosser joined the company in 1999. She's an attorney and an operations leader, and she managed operations teams of 50 plus associates, dealing with compliance, IT, marketing, call center support, book acquisitions, commissions, accounting, program processes, and processes management. As you can see, she does it all. But today is particularly special to have her because she developed and created and developed the work-home strategy for Nationwide employees previously. So without further ado, let me welcome you to Nicole Schlosser, Director of Share Operations Services at Nationwide.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning. On behalf of Nationwide, thank you for joining us for the second virtual stop of the 2020 Latina Style Business Series. I'm excited to be with you. We are extremely honored to be here with you today and support Latina entrepreneurs in Albuquerque and across the country. Before I go any further, I want to extend our gratitude to Robert, Tanya, Lupita, and the rest of the Latina Style familia. Nationwide truly appreciates how the team pulled together to make the necessary pivot to keep this important event on the calendar and bring us together virtually to talk about the very timely topic of doing business in times of crises. Today, we acknowledge that 2020 has been a hard year. It has been particularly hard for our Hispanic community and all communities of color. But we are here today, together, to learn and network and to be intentional about the way we respond to what is happening. For nearly 100 years, Nationwide has been committed to protecting what matters most to people through our insurance and financial services products. Like many of the companies represented here today, Nationwide began as a small business, founded by a group of entrepreneurs, and has grown to be a Fortune 100 company. We also recognize that small businesses are the lifeline of the US economy and that Latina entrepreneurs continue to open more business segments than any other segment. We're excited to hear from Teresa Razzo as she shares her story of building her business and leaving a legacy. I would encourage you to soak up all of the knowledge and energy you're going to receive today. Then make a deliberate plan that will enable your business not only to survive, but to thrive. But wait, there's more. We'll be giving away 2 gift boxes filled with tasty treats from one of our partners, Coco Andre, a chocolatier located in Dallas. Make sure to stay until the end so you can be included in this drawing. And remember that Nationwide is on your side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Um, it is, like I indicated, um, can you guys hear me? Okay, there we go. Thank you so much, Nicole, for those kind words. And in a way, welcome to the Latina Style family. It's the first time that I think that you have had the chance to work with us. I also would like to thank from Nationwide our friends Lou Yarborough and Hope Jackaway, and of course, our traveling partner Lori Burgos that travels with the business series everywhere with Latina Style, and to all the Nationwide team. Now it is my pleasure to introduce a short video by the Honorable Tim Keller, Mayor of Albuquerque. Um, the mayor has been an incredible civic servant. She served as a state senator. She served in different positions throughout the New Mexico government, and he is right now the mayor, handling this very, very difficult situation that we're looking at because of the COVID-19. So please, let's pay attention to the video from Mayor Kelly.
Hi, I'm Mayor Tim Keller, and I'm so glad to be joining you virtually for the Latina Business Style series. This is a very important event for our city because we know that, especially when it comes to economic development, it's women of color who often have disproportionate access to all sorts of resources that others take for granted. But before I talk more about that, I want to give shout outs to Cynthia Harvio, our own Director of Economic Development and the first Latina to hold that position. Now, in our city, we're doing a lot when it comes to trying to support minority-owned women businesses, especially our small business office and our brand new Minority Business Development Center. So we're going to continue doing what we can to support, and we want to encourage you all to work together and work with the city to really lift up Latina businesses.
Thank you so much, Mayor Keller. The mayor, will better. You got a year to prepare yourself for when we return to Albuquerque next year. So, for the big reception to have Latina Style Business Series Day in Albuquerque, and you can have all those flags that they put, on the light poles and the huge proclamations, and we will come back in force next year. But now it is my pleasure to welcome you to the people who that really made it possible for us to come to Albuquerque. For the past 20 plus years, I've had the honor and the pleasure of knowing Patricia. Ay, perdón. Of knowing and working with Patricia Chavez. And actually, Patricia Chavez is the one who is truly responsible for bringing us to Albuquerque. Because everywhere in the country that I met her, because we haven't been back for almost 15 years, everywhere that I met her, everywhere that I see you, any national conference, Patricia, grabs me by the arm and says, "Oh, Robert, come in, we need to talk." And all these very intense conversations resulted in us coming back to Albuquerque at this time. And not only that, Patricia, was very kind to introduce us to Cynthia, who's going to be the co-chair for our event. So without further ado, let me introduce a welcome video that we have from our chairs for the event, Ms. Patricia Chavez and Ms. Cynthia Jaramillo.
Good morning. I'm Patricia Chavez, the co-chair for the Latina Style Business Series virtual conference here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Had we been doing this live, we would have volumes of Latinas and others attending this Latina Style Business Series. Held here in 2006, we had 400 enrolled and 400 on a waiting list. I would like to thank our partners, the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce in Laza, New Mexico, LULAC, Mana de Albuquerque, Mana del Norte, the New Mexico Food Project, NABO New Mexico, the Hispanic Heritage Committee, LULAC and Las Mujeres, as well as numbers of others that yet have to sign up. We welcome you to the great city of Albuquerque. This would have been the 139th Latina Business Series done by Latina Business Style. But this year, in their 26th anniversary, we welcome you to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Cynthia.
Good morning, and on behalf of Mayor Tim Keller, I would like to welcome Latina Style Business Series to the beautiful city of Albuquerque. We are so excited to host this business series on behalf of so many Latina business entrepreneurs in Albuquerque and throughout New Mexico. My name is Cynthia Jaramillo, and I'm the Director of Economic Development for the beautiful city of Albuquerque, the first Latina director to serve in this role. And again, on behalf of Mayor Tim Keller, welcome to the city of Albuquerque. At this time, I would like to introduce a video to display all of the extraordinary assets that the city of Albuquerque has to offer.
Thank you for that beautiful virtual tour of the city. And now, please join us for our first panel, Financial Survival Guide. Learn how New Mexico is facing COVID-19. To moderate this panel, let's welcome back Cynthia Jaramillo, Director of Economic Development of the City of Albuquerque.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the kind introduction. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our panelists today who will be talking to us about resources that are still available during this COVID-19 pandemic that we're all facing for small business owners. This subject in which we should all be deeply interested in, because it's by avoiding financial mistakes that we can be rest assured that of our financial futures. Again, allow me to introduce the panel. I'd like to first welcome Nick Delgado. Nick is the president of Black Pen Whiteboard, a private investment company that supports and helps entrepreneurs really get big deals done. Thank you for joining us, Nick. And please, we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, Cynthia, and good morning to everyone that's tuned in. What a great honor to be with everyone today. I'm actually dialed in from Los Angeles, and what I'm really passionate about today's conversation is really helping frame our Latina entrepreneurs consider how to properly capitalize their businesses. This is obviously an interesting time, but I also think when we look back at 2020, we'll see this as a tremendous period of opportunity. So I'm looking forward to this panel, Cynthia, to talk about how to frame some of those opportunities from a capital standpoint.
Certainly. Thank you for that, Nick. And now it's really an honor to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Frances A. Padilla, who is the Colorado District Director for the Small Business Administration. She left beautiful Nuevo Mexico for Colorado. We miss her deeply. As director, Frances is the Chief Executive Officer responsible for directing the expansion and delivery of the Small Business Administration's various loan and business training services throughout the state of Colorado. Welcome, Frances, and we'd love for you to also share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Buenos dias todos. I'm Frances Padilla, the director for the SBA Colorado District Office, formerly the deputy director and the chief of finance for the New Mexico District Office. And up until about 6 years ago, I spent my entire life as a Nueva Mexicana and a Burgueña for most of that. But now I'm serving SBA out of Colorado. For those of you that don't know the SBA, we are the only federal agency whose primary mission is to assist small businesses to start, grow, expand, and as we found was even more critical than probably we ever could have expected, to recover. We do that by providing financial, educational, and business development support and advocacy throughout the United States and U.S. territories. We're a pretty smallish agency, and as we used to joke, SBA might have been the best kept secret in government. I think after this year, we can't say that anymore. No podemos escondernos de ustedes ahora. Not that we want to. Obviously, we would love for you to avail yourselves of SBA services. In case you're not familiar, the New Mexico District Office is located in Albuquerque, and it's actually led by the incomparable John Garcia. And I'm just so pleased to be here today to help share SBA's experience during COVID and any resources that we can bring to bear.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Frances. And now also here with us is Senior Vice President for Bank of America, Paul Mondragon. Good morning, Paul, and welcome. We'd also would love for you to share a little bit about your role at Bank of America and why you're participating with us this morning.
Thank you, Cynthia. Hope I'm coming through okay. So I'm Paul Mondragon. I'm a native New Mexican. Grew up here in Albuquerque, and I've been in banking for about 25 years now. Just realized that I passed 25 years in August. I have been with Bank of America the last 5 years, where I'm, as you said, a senior vice president for commercial banking. And I'm also the market president for Bank of America here in New Mexico. And that role charges me to support our three greatest constituents, which are our communities, our customers, and our employees. So help our employees to bring their whole selves to work, whether it's Latina, whether it's Black, whether Asian, or women. We welcome all and invite people to bring their whole personal, their whole self to work. And then out in the communities, we help via our foundation grants and supporting whether it's businesses or not-for-profits out in the community. And then, of course, our customers. And it's just making sure that we connect our customers or potential new customers with the right people in Bank of America to make sure they get taken care of.
Great. Thank you for that, Paul. And thank you to all of our panelists for spending the morning with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to really educate and make Latina entrepreneurs and small businesses aware of all the programs and resources available to them during this very critical time. And with that, we'll go ahead and start with our panel, and I'll go ahead and just ask a few questions that we received from the audience. And I think I am going to start with, I would like to start with, oh, forgive me. Oh my goodness, I failed to introduce one of the most important panelists with us today. And forgive me for that. Last but certainly not least, please welcome Leila Martinez. And once I introduce her, you're going to know why she's the most important. Senior Stakeholder Liaison for the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. Hi, Leila, and forgive me for skipping over you. Please do not hold that against me. We'd like for you to share a little bit about yourself and tell us why you're here this morning. Oh, I think we can hear you. Oh, no, we can't hear you. We're not able to hear you. No, still not able to hear you. No. Perhaps,
There we
Tanya.
go. Maybe now?
Perfecto. We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I do not know what's going on with this. We worked fine earlier and then it switched on and off a couple times. Anyways,
I will take
thank you for
responsibility.
having me here today. We all gotta love technology and this virtual world we live in, but it's a pleasure to be here. I am a stakeholder liaison, and what that means for the IRS is I'm here to help the business owners, the community in general, and we're here to reach out and provide information and education related to tax compliance and meeting your tax compliance, but on a whole lot friendlier level than what anybody thinks of the IRS. It's great that I'm getting the opportunity to talk to Latina Style. This is the first time I've had this opportunity, and I was really excited to do it. Working with the multicultural community is a big initiative for the IRS. Our commissioner has made it very public that it is an initiative. So I feel blessed to be able to do this and reach out to this community and hopefully make some new partnerships today so that I can continue to help this community in Albuquerque. So I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity, and I hope I can bring you some good information today.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Layla. And to our participants, apologies for the technical difficulties. And again, Layla, apologies from New Mexico for almost failing to introduce you. And again, thank you to all of you for your thoughtful introductions. Again, we have a lot to learn and we have many questions to address today. A reminder for all of our attendees to please type in your questions in the question and answer tab. And please keep the comments coming to network with the audience in the chat room. Now, with that, I'll just go ahead and dive into our panel and our discussion. And I think I'm going to start with, I'd like to start with Francis. Francis, what assistance is the Small Business Administration providing during COVID-19? For those that aren't aware, for those that are just tuning in, please start from the very beginning if you can.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sure you've all read the headlines and everybody watches the news. And so you might be aware of how SBA, along with the Treasury Department, was mobilized as almost what I'll call the small business first responders. Over the spring and summer, Congress passed a number of pieces of legislation after the pandemic escalated for new programs that could assist not only small businesses, but also nonprofits, faith-based communities, and even agricultural enterprises, understanding that everyone has a payroll to meet. And so in some cases, these programs were designed from bottom up. I had to be stood up in like a blink of an eye. And I'm going to tell you that it basically comes in 4 buckets. And obviously we can discuss any of these further, but my buckets would be technical assistance that was authorized in the CARES Act, expanded collateral materials in languages other than English, which we all know was incredibly necessary in so many of our underserved markets across the US, small business debt relief, and then access to capital programs that actually had to be designed again from the bottom up. So under technical assistance, many of you might not know this, but we're basically co-parents of a lot of resource partners across the country, the small business development centers, our women business centers, our SCORE chapters, and our veteran business outreach centers. So knowing and recognizing that the boots on the ground, we're going to have to be the ones that would play the most significant role in the actual provision of technical assistance. under the CARES Act, we basically allocated more money so that they could staff up and reinforce disaster response and recovery programming. I'm sure you saw that happen in New Mexico. We definitely did in Colorado. Second, in efforts to reach more underserved communities, the CARES Act also gave us additional funds, like I said, to create more collateral materials in languages other than English. So materials are now available, really specifically related to COVID-19 programs in 17 different languages, and they're still accessible on SBA.gov, by the way. So if you need to pull some material and kind of reinforce with communities of color, we really encourage you to do that. Third, SBA was offered or authorized to offer small business debt relief, and that really kind of came in a couple of different flavors. First is that if a client already had an SBA disaster loan and it was not COVID related, the SBA administrator very early on said, we need to give some breathing room to people, and automatically gave deferments on those SBA loan payments for a period of 12 months. No one had asked for that. That was just automatic, and it's still going on now. And then also under the CARES Act, if you were already an SBA borrower, you had a 7A, a community advantage, a 504, a micro loan, you were relieved of the obligation to pay both principal and interest on those loans for a period of 7 months. So we started making those loans payments on your behalf, not deferments, actually major payments. And that provision also applied to any new money. So if you needed new capital access to expand your business, to do more lines of credit, to kind of survive the working capital conditions over that period, and you made an SBA loan, we would also pay those payments for a period of 6 months. And that went through September 2020. And some businesses are still getting some of that relief. And then, of course, we stood up our capital access programs, our EIDL loans, our EIDL advances, 2 rounds of PPP, and then SBA disaster bridge loans and community advantage recovery loans. So that's kind of a gambit. And I'd be happy to answer any specific questions as we go through this, Cynthia.
Great. Oh, thank you for that, Francis. And as Francis shared some of the more traditional lending and capital tools, I'd like to pivot to Nick. And if Nick, can you talk to us about, can you tell us what can entrepreneurs and specifically Latina entrepreneurs learn from what private equity investors are doing during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question, Cynthia. Keep in mind that private equity groups are professional investors. So what they do is they raise money from various groups, and it's their job to invest that money in privately held companies. And so one of the things that I've observed that's very prevalent right now is their intense focus on cash flow. And I think that's obvious for a number of our listeners. However, I want to highlight, how they're going about it, right? And so when they think about cash flow, it's really about increasing cash flow by examining the operating and cash conversion cycle. So here's the question for our entrepreneurs. It's really, how many days do I have my own money out there before I get paid? And I'll give you an example, Cynthia. Yesterday I was talking to an owner of a marketing agency, and his process would be where they would pitch a client, and as part of the pitch process, they would spend up to $10,000 on a pitch. Mm-hmm. And they would get a decision within 30 days, but he spends that $10,000 day one, right at the pitch. 30 days go by, they get a decision. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But then when they win, those engagements can be up to 90 days, and they're not getting paid until they fully delivered the services, right? So 30 days for the pitch and then 90 days for the engagement. That's 120 days that they're out those $10,000, but it doesn't stop there. It was $10,000 to pitch, right? Well, when they're actually delivering the services, they're also footing the bill as part of that engagement. And we could have many Latina entrepreneurs on today's call that have a similar dynamic, where during those 90 days of execution, they also have cost of goods sold. So there could be another $50,000 over those 90 days. So in this case, in this hypothetical, we're out $60,000 over 120 days before we get $1 in, right? That has nothing to do with profitability. That has nothing to do with margins. This is all about cash flow. And so for our friends at home, I would ask everyone to really think about that cash conversion cycle and to map it out. And here's a couple of things that you can do to obviously keep more cash in your business. One is you want to extend payables. And what I mean by that, payables are the obligations that we have to others. So if, for example, we are spending $10,000 to create the pitch, I may be using vendors to do that. Well, then I'm going to try to align the terms that I have with my suppliers and my vendors with the way that I'm getting paid. Now, that doesn't necessarily always match up, but I want to actually borrow money, or I want to have terms with my suppliers for as long as possible. That's called extending payables. The other thing that we want to do is we want to shorten our receivables. One thing I didn't note is they're entitled to bill after they deliver on the project, very similar to many people on today's call. But then, as you know, you invoice, and then those invoices could take another 30 days, and those invoices are receivables. And so what we want to do is shorten our receivables, and you can do that by providing incentives to your customers and just doing really diligent follow-up. Sometimes those receivables can age, and that's when you get a really long cash conversion cycle, and that puts a tremendous amount of pressure, especially on small businesses.
Great, great. Thank you for sharing. Great answer. And that takes me to Paul Mondragon with Bank of America. Nick just mentioned what small businesses, entrepreneurs, Latina entrepreneurs can do to offer their customers by way of incentives. Now, what is Bank of America doing? Because you are a national bank, Paul, you represent a national bank, but you have a grassroots local presence here in New Mexico. What are some of the things that Bank of America are doing to support especially entrepreneurs of color access your capital toolbox?
Sure, we have a number of resources available to women entrepreneurs, people of color. I would recommend people go to the Bank of America website and honestly, you could just search for women in business. So one of the key subjects that we have there, or key pages, is the Bank of America Center for Women's Entrepreneurs. And so on that page, people are going to find a number of different resources. We've got a coronavirus response tab where people could access resources around there. There's information about some global initiatives that we have specifically for women. The Kiva Women's Entrepreneurship Fund, where we're working with the U.S. Department of State, funding women entrepreneurs around the world. Another global is the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women. Microloans, providing capital for women entrepreneurs, again, globally. More close to home, here in the U.S., the Tory Burch Foundation Capital Program. With this program, we specifically work with a local group called DreamSpring, where we provide capital to DreamSpring, and they are able to deploy that for small business loans, microloans, to help not just women and people of color, but of course everybody. Money knows, money is green, but it knows no color, let's say. And then others, Bank of America Institute for Women's Entrepreneurship, and this is in partnership with Cornell University. All of this is available online, and folks can click through, find resources. We've got templates for the cash flow, which Nick mentioned. Cash is king. Understanding how the cash is flowing through your business is just key to understand. So a number of resources out there. Please check out B of A and look for women's entrepreneurship.
Great. Thank you for that, Paul. And I'd like to talk about employee retention and what is the employee retention credit? What does that mean for those that are participating? Layla, if you can share a little bit about what that means, and also maybe you can talk about PPP loan forgiveness. Please, if you can enlighten us and share again, what is the employee retention credit and PPP loan forgiveness for those in the audience that are not familiar?
Okay, that's a very complicated question, so I'm going to give a very answer. And just keep referring you all back to irs.gov, where you will find a lot of information and the detail behind this answer. So those are two very separate questions. The PPP loan protection is, if you go back to Francis, it is a loan that you could have gotten through the SBA, but it does have some tax effects. And goodness, how can we get both of these in here this fast?
Well, maybe one at a time. How about we just
Address them separately. So the PPP loan protection, as Francis mentioned earlier, you can apply for that through Francis and the SBA. And what that is the individuals who receive that loan could take a loan up to, and Francis can correct me if I'm wrong, up to about $2 million, $2 million, and get that loan forgiven if they use more than 75% of it towards payroll expenses. And there's a detail of what's included in those payroll expenses. The rest of that loan can be used towards general business expenses such as utilities, rent, mortgage, think of a couple of other ones. There's some other obligations, interest on your loans. So the rest of those can be used for other qualified expenses. So that's the loan and that's the money you can receive. And then that money will become fully forgiven. The tax effects on the forgiveness of this is that the IRS is not going to make you recognize the forgiven loan as income, whereas in other forgiven loans are always recognized as income, but not in this case. A PPP loan is not recognized as income. On the other side of that, any of the expenses that are paid with that loan are not going to be considered deductible expenses on your tax return. So those are the big key points you have to remember when you take a PPP loan and the forgiveness of that loan, as well as qualifying that loan for forgiveness. If the loan isn't used for paycheck protection, because that was the main intent, then it becomes a repayable loan. And I'm sure Francis can go into those details, but that's the tax effect of the loan. There's more information, and we had a notice come out called Notice 2020-32. So if you go on irs.gov and you Google that notice, so it's 2020-32, it goes into those tax effects and actually will quote the different IRS code sections. So that's paycheck protection. You wanted to also know about
Yeah, tell us about what is the employee retention credit. I had somebody direct message me and ask me specifically about that. So if you can share.
So the employee retention credit is an IRS credit. It is a fully refundable credit, and it is claimed on the individual's 941. It is a credit available to any size of business because there's two different credits out there. And this one came out of the CARES Act. It is meant for individuals. They have to qualify it due to COVID purposes. In other words, there's two factors. The first factor is that their business was directly affected by COVID. Either the business was basically shut down or reduced in business, and their gross receipts went down by more than 50% of the prior year's quarter that we're looking at. So the purpose of this credit is for them to keep their employees employed, and they get a dollar for dollar refundable credit for keeping their employees employed, and it's up to $5,000 per employee. The credit, there's so much information, so you'll get like what's a qualified employee, how they the calculation, all of that's going to be on irs.gov. I'm just giving you the briefs of that. But the correct, does that make sense? So I'm trying to pull out some of the most important things.
A snapshot is perfect.
Yeah, so you're getting a very small snapshot of it. But anyways, the credit goes to these qualified employers for the employee's wage up to $5,000 per employee, dollar for dollar, 50% of their, or 100% of their wages. 50%. I could have your credits mixed up. It's 50% of their wages. for up to $10,000 with a maximum credit of $5,000. And that is going to be claimed under 941s. However, if there is a cash flow problem, as Nick mentioned earlier, you can get that credit ahead of time by filling out a Form 7200. And these are for wages paid between the start of COVID in April through the end of the year. And it is still available. So,
Great. Well, thank you for that snapshot, Layla. Great, appreciate it. And thank you for answering two of my questions in a very concise and succinct way. Appreciate that. I'd like to go over back to Francis. Now, Layla talked about this a little bit, but Francis, can you tell us a little bit about, in a concise, succinct way, can you expand about PPP loan forgiveness? That's really important and very confusing for many entrepreneurs, whether they're minority entrepreneurs, Latina entrepreneurs. Can you expand about PPP loan forgiveness?
Sure, absolutely. So as Layla mentioned, the application period actually ended in August. And so now there was a period of time where people could use their PPP under their covered period to go ahead and make payroll and to pay the other ancillary expenses that were allowed under PPP. We began approving actually and receiving PPP forgiveness applications about October 2nd, and we're going to keep processing those forgiveness applications as expeditiously as possible. But as a recap, it's based on employers maintaining or quickly rehiring your employees and maintaining those salary levels. And then forgiveness is only reduced if your full-time headcount goes down and declines, or if salaries and wages decrease when compared to that historic covered period that you applied under. And you'll be fully forgiven if the funds are used for at least 60% of payroll costs, and the rest can be used on mortgage, rent, utilities. So now we actually have 3 PPP loan forgiveness applications. About 10 days ago, we released a simplified form. It is the 3508S, and this is for those of you who have PPP loans that are $50,000 or under. It's not an automatic forgiveness, but what it is a simpler way for you to apply for forgiveness. All of our forms, by the way, have instructions and easy ways to calculate all the things you need to calculate, plus to complete the form. If you can't use the simplified, you can use the 3508EZ, the easy version. There are 3 different ways you can qualify to be able to use the easy version. Again, it's not automatic forgiveness, but it does give you an expedited way to be able to apply for forgiveness. And then if you can't meet any of that criteria, there's just the regular application form. Like I said, everything has step-by-step instructions. You can absolutely go to any one of our resource providers across the whole country if you're having problems pulling information or documentation, your 941s. In Colorado, actually, we've come up with some great tips for applying for forgiveness, which I'm absolutely going to share in the chat room. I think the top 3 things I would say is work with your advisors and keep very accurate records about how you spent the money. The second is that all the program details continue to change. So make sure that you're checking the SBA website for the latest information. And then thirdly, you really need to check in with your lender for guidance on how to apply and when to apply for PPP loan forgiveness. Although we have those forms on the website, we've given authority to the lenders to go ahead and design their own process, as long as it mirrors the SBA information.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Francis. Again, thank you for the 10,000-foot overview. I think it's really important. And again, for us to continue to reiterate what that really means, because so many entrepreneurs, even those that are experts in the field, sometimes are confused about the processes and what that really means again. So right now I'd like to hear from Nick and Paul. Now what I'd like to hear in Nick, I'll ask you first, because we're living through and businesses are operating in these uncertain times. Now, what's one unconventional approach for small businesses, Latina entrepreneurs, to really play offense in this environment?
Yeah, so here's an unconventional idea. It's to go out and acquire somebody. So I get that we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's certainly not lost on me that we are in the middle of a recession. I noted earlier in my remarks that I think we'll look back at this year as an area of tremendous opportunity. And so I said all that as context because I think if we were to think about acquisitions as a way to grow our businesses, we can have really powerful growth. Let me give you a quick summary on how this can work, Cynthia.
Please.
If you think about a competitor that kicks off $100,000 of cash flow, right? We can go out and buy that competitor. Generally, they will sell for a multiple of the cash flow. So let's call it 3. So that competitor that generates $100,000 of cash, we can buy for $300,000. Now, here's what's awesome about this panel is we have Francis. Francis and our friends at the SBA will finance this acquisition through the SBA 7A program, and we only need 10% down with most lenders. We can obviously huddle with Paul on this. So for 10% down, so $30,000, we buy a $300,000 company that kicks off $100,000 in cash. Now, when you think about that loan over 10 years, we have a loan for $270,000. At the 6% interest rate, that's $36,000 per year. So think about that, Cynthia. You get $100,000 of cash flow because we're buying this $300,000 company. And because we have this 7A loan, the cost to service the loan is $36,000 a year. So we're obviously, after taxes, we're netting it out. So my point is that the acquisition could in fact pay for itself. And now we're acquiring additional clients, we're acquiring additional infrastructure, we're acquiring additional credibility so that we can be successful in our marketplace at a time when a lot of other people are playing defense. We can be playing offense.
Oh, great. No, thank you for that, Nick. Thank you for sharing with our audience. And I'd like to ask Paul if he has anything to add to that. Again, Paul, what is, one unconventional approach for small businesses, not only in New Mexico, but nationally, to play offense in this very uncertain and ever-changing environment?
Yeah, so I'm a banker, so we don't do unconventional, but I think Nick had it covered as far as what could be a potential unconventional sort of way is looking out for an acquisition. For us, it's all about connectivity. So I'll pull back to some convention, and that's just making sure you are networked, whether it comes to selling your product, whether it comes to business support, whether your attorney, your banker, your accountant, that you have all those traditional methods of support as you're struggling through this time, and then the governmental supplement services that are out there through SBA, PPP, which is done now, but but SBA is still out there. So if you want to go the unconventional route and look towards an acquisition, that's great. But again, I'll have to lean back and say that we're going to do conventional stuff via the bank.
Oh, come on, Paul. Everyone's doing business differently. Traditional banks have to pivot with all of us.
Yeah, I'm pivoting as I'm working from home. I know it looks like we're working in the same office today, but yeah, that's
all on
our
the same
pivot.
team. We're all on the same team. That's what's important. Before we go on to questions, Q&A from the Q&A, the chat room, since I am moderating, I'm gonna take the liberty to mention that it's really important to Mayor Tim Keller and important to me that we champion a culture of diversity, inclusivity, and empowerment. Mayor Tim Keller mentioned that most recent, my department won a grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce to operate the Minority Business Development Agency, which is not very common for a city government to operate these centers or these agencies. Really, it is our goal to create a more equitable economy through strategic support of minority-owned and Latina entrepreneurs or minority-owned enterprises. The mayor has made it a priority to fund business development and workforce development projects in local communities that have historically been left behind. So I'd like to just open it up to the panel. So as city governments, we're really, not just because of COVID, but really pre-COVID. You've got so many mayors and governors who are really looking to do more business with Latina enterprises, minority-owned businesses. Now, as we all move towards championing a culture of diversity and inclusivity and empowerment, I'd like to know what from the SBA, IRS, and both I'd like to hear from Nick and Paul, what are you all doing to empower a culture of diversity and inclusivity and really to empower Latina entrepreneurs? And I'll start with Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia, for that. I think it's an awesome question, and here's where I stand on it. I think we need to have more information in our community around how to access the capital markets. You know, one of the issues that we regularly hear is that the challenge is access to capital. But here's what I would tell you, Cynthia, the world right now especially is awash with cash. There's actually a tremendous amount of capital in the market. So I don't think the problem is access to capital. I would challenge all of us in that the issue is really access to preparation to access the capital, right? So if we can put together the right package for Paul will play ball with us, but we have to recognize that Paul has to meet certain criteria in order to do a loan. And so what I'm committed to is to making sure that everyone in our community knows what we need to have in place when we're engaging with the capital community, whether that be a debt provider or an equity provider. I think we need to up our game in terms of preparation and our financials and how our businesses are structured, because we have great ideas and we have great community members. And I think if we just had the right structure and the right information, then I think all of this capital that's out there is going to be a much more willing partner.
Oh, great. Thank you for that, Nick. And okay, I'd like to hear from Layla and then Francis, and then I'll close with Paul.
Right, thank you. That's a great question. And as I mentioned earlier, the IRS has really started a great initiative to get into what we consider the multicultural community. Our problem at the IRS, though, is access to that community, whether it's just cultural barriers, cultural beliefs, a general fear to the IRS. We have a hard time getting into these multicultural communities, which are also seem to be non-traditionally operating. A lot of them aren't related to some of the bigger industries that we are in. So we're doing our best now. I actually sit on a team, and it is nationwide, and we are trying to partner with industries such as yourselves that work within these communities to see where those barriers are, identify them, and see if we can overcome them, and even maybe get your help to overcome some of those barriers. That team's called a Working Together team. There are 6 of them nationwide. I sit over the one that manages New Mexico, California, and Arizona, as well as Nevada, I believe. The other thing we're doing is really focusing on the translation to other languages to get that tax information out to them, because we all know we can run a business, but to not meet your tax obligations is something that can end up ruining a business in the end. So we want people to have that education right out of the gate when they start running that, instead of playing catch up 3 or 4 years later. And as a revenue agent, the first 8 years of my career, that is something I really did see, was people getting caught up 3 or 4 years after they've started this new business, and they don't know how to overcome being so backwards. And getting that information out to the business world is super important to us.
Great. No, thank you for that, Layla. Francis, can you share with us a little bit about what SBA is doing to really champion, a culture of inclusivity?
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely, totally agree with Layla and with Nick. It's not necessarily that the resources aren't out there, whether they're from the federal government or from other sources and our partners. It's really access. And it's also about meeting people where they are. And I think it's a difficult lesson to learn when you come out, especially when we had our COVID money, you come out of the gates and you kind of falter a little bit. I think we learned some lessons during that about reaching the underserved markets a lot better than we thought we ever were going to be able to have to do that in a pinch. A couple of things that happened under PPP and under EIDL that I think will be lessons for us that we'll take forward is, we recognized very quickly that a lot of small businesses, especially those that were in socially and economically disadvantaged communities, did not have banking relationships to be able to, or were underserved in banking relationships. The percentage of unbanked or underbanked entrepreneurs in those communities was dramatically higher than it is in wealthier communities. And so right away to address that disparity, what SBA did was expanded the number of lenders that included community development financial institutions and also minority depository institutions, so that these community lenders would be able to work with some of these borrowers or potential borrowers where they may not have had a relationship before. We also set aside a number of funds, $10 billion actually, under PPP to be lent exclusively by these lenders. So our hope was that the dedicated funds would ensure that everyone had equal access. That was on the pandemic side. Definitely, you know about the languages and or the materials in other languages. But in our traditional programs, we have a ton of partners that clearly are tripping over each other to help entrepreneurs and especially socio and economically disadvantaged businesses. In New Mexico, you have 21 SBDCs. A lot of them have consultants that can offer services one-on-one. You also have one of the largest concentration of women business centers, SBA women business centers in the whole country, that is hosted by West. There are 6 women business centers in New Mexico, and their primary mission is to help minority and women-owned businesses. Not to say that they won't help others, but that is their specific target market. And I think the other thing I would offer is that in addition to just regular traditional counseling, technical assistance, and training, we also need to do a better job, and we intend to do so, especially out of my office, to introduce more Latinx business owners and especially women entrepreneurs into next growth technologies and into next growth stage businesses. We have so many different programs. We have SBIR, STTR programs that help research and development for those innovators and disruptors who have a technology that they want to do research and development on, sell it to the federal government with the eye towards commercialization eventually. We also give the state of New Mexico export promotion money. So if you have a good or a service that you think lends itself to selling outside of the country, these are dollars that can help assist you get to that level, to the international trade market. And then also we have 80 certifications, women-owned business certifications, hub zone certifications. These are specifically designed to help women entrepreneurs and people of social and economic disadvantaged strata to compete for the federal share of the spend of the U.S. government.
Right. No, thank you for that, Francis. Appreciate it. And I'm going to just do a quick, before I go over to Paul, I'm going to do a quick time check with the Latina Style team. I know we're scheduled to do Q&A directly from the audience at 10 o'clock, and it's 10:01. Are we okay on time, team?
5-minute warning.
1 minute warning?
5.
5 minutes. Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Paul, can you tell us a little bit about, concisely, about what Bank of America is doing to champion a culture of diversity and inclusivity?
Sure. We actually just this week released our human capital report, and that talks about what we're doing as a company, both internally in promoting women and people of color, as well as externally, how we're deploying our dollars out in the communities that we serve, and supporting women, people of color. When COVID hit, we came out with $100 million, little bit of a difference there, $100 million program to support our communities with COVID, and you know what was going to be happening with our healthcare system, and deploying these dollars to hunger, to food banks, and things along those lines. This summer, after the death of George Floyd and all of the racial strife that came after that, rightfully so, the bank came out with $1 billion program to again address these, with the understanding that that people in communities of color are the most stressed when something is going on. And I don't mean individually, which is part of it, but those communities are put under the greatest stress when there's a pandemic, where there's an economic crisis. And so we've got this $1 billion commitment over the next 4 years to support housing, healthcare, hunger. You know, we've donated hundreds of thousands, about 400,000 just locally so far, and more to go. You know, over the next several years. And gosh, just last week we donated 100,000 masks to UNM Hospital, with the recognition that they are the hospital, more of a public hospital versus a private hospital that is going to be taking in people of color. We know that the Native American community, the Navajo Nation, when there's somebody sick there, they're going to be coming to UNMH. So we have this commitment. It means a lot, and we're going to call ourselves out. And I'll say in our human capital report, we recognize that our board needs some work, and we state that. And so, but we're working on it. We've got a number of women, we've got a number of people of color, and we're all constantly working towards that.
Great. Thank you to all of you for answering that very important question. I think we have a couple of minutes to take some live Q&A from our audience. And so I think there are 2 questions that have not been answered in the chat group. And one is from Sunny Tyrell. The question is, what specific programs are available specifically for Latin women to finance and guide us and help us promote our businesses and gain customers? Who would like to take that? Paul, Francis, Nick.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, you have to be smarter than the technology. So in terms of SBA resources, actually it's both SBA and our partner resources. We have a number of SBA micro lenders throughout the country who their demographic and their target market is to work specifically with, again, those in the underserved markets in terms of finance. That would be the first place I would go if you were looking for traditional debt financing, and it just depends on the increment and where you are. In New Mexico, you have New Mexico Community Development Loan Fund, you have Dream Spring, otherwise known as Accion, or formerly known as Accion, and plenty of others that we can definitely lead you to. In about the next week or so, in terms of the question on growth, I have to keep it quiet because it's about a big reveal, but SBA is about to announce a major nationwide learning platform that'll be targeted just for women-owned businesses, specifically those in underserved markets as well, that will give them an opportunity to go through courses to be able to grow their business and find sources for financing as well.
Great. Thank you, Francis. And one more question, and I'll ask Nick to answer this one. And in the interest of time, Nick, if you can answer concisely, can you address the role that timely, efficient communications with all stakeholders plays in times of crisis?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think it's coming from Santos there, who's at a PR firm. And so I think it's obviously critical. And I want to point to stakeholders such as capital providers, right? Board members, employees. And I want to specifically talk about challenges that we face as entrepreneurs, sometimes in the financial performance of our businesses. Sometimes what happens in a small or medium-sized organization when performance is not there, that's not openly communicated to the stakeholders. I would challenge that way of thinking. And here's my point. Here's the bottom line, Cynthia. If you as an entrepreneur are having a hard time with your business, don't keep it a secret from your advisors. Don't keep it a secret from your bank. Call Paul because he can help you. Talk to your employees because they can help you. This is obviously a difficult time for a lot of people. So you want to lean into the heat and engage in active communications and not handle the crisis on your own.
Great answer. Thank you for that, Nick. And thank you for the questions from our audience. We're going to wrap up this panel, but before we do, for our Albuquerque entrepreneurs that are tuned in, I would like to say that the City of Albuquerque, my department, Economic Development, we're getting ready to administer our 3rd round of economic relief to local small businesses affected by the pandemic. And so we're deploying $10 million of small business relief grants Those the grant applications will be made available on Monday, October 26th, and you can access those applications at www.cabq.gov/economic development. Thank you to Nick, thank you to Francis, thank you to Paul, and thank you to Layla. Thank you for participating in this very important and timely, robust conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for having me.
And now, to moderate our next session, Big Legacies, Extraordinary Stories, let's welcome Lori Burgos, Senior Consultant, Diverse Marketing at Nationwide.
Buenas tardes, buenos días, and welcome to Nationwide's Fireside Chat, Big Legacies, Extraordinary Stories. At Nationwide, we want to help reshape the narrative of the Hispanic community. And so we do that by highlighting the beautiful and powerful stories of small businesses that are making a positive impact in their local communities. And today I am joined by Teresa Razo, an entrepreneur, mother, wife, motivational speaker, philanthropist, community leader, visionary, and lover of life. Teresa Razo has been a pillar to the Latin American community in Orange County for decades. Currently, she is founder and CEO of Cambalache Argentine and Italian cuisine in Fountain Valley, and Villa Roma Argentine and Italian cuisine in Laguna Hills. Bienvenida, Teresa, and thank you so much for joining us today to share your inspiring story.
Muchas gracias, gracias. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share our story, and not only, just not the story, just the real life that we're facing right now as a small businesses.
Thank you so much, Teresa. So let's go ahead and get started, and tell me, what business are you in?
Well, the most common business that everybody would know would be restaurants. So I'm in the industry of the restaurants. We currently have 2 restaurants and a market and deli, and we had a catering company. But really, I'm in the business of helping people and empowering people. The restaurants are really a vehicle for me to just get to them. So that's what we're doing.
That's awesome. And I know that you've told me how you, over the years, feel that your clients and your customers really come to your restaurants to get a sense of community. And that really was impactful. We know that all across the country, and especially right now, because of everything that's happening with COVID-19, people are really starved for connection. And let's just kind of dig a little bit deeper into COVID-19 and how has the pandemic impacted your business, and how did you respond to that?
Well, our industry was hit very hard. Suddenly we just had less than 6 hours to pivot and change and say, you're closing your doors. You can only do takeout, and that's about it in the restaurant. Thankfully, on one of the restaurants next door, I have a market and deli, which already has meats, products, and it's more like an essential mini market. So we pivoted that way, and we also did the takeout, but it was a major, major impact. One of my restaurants, the one that had Villa Roma, which has the market and deli, its sales went down 70% automatically within that week. The other restaurant was 85%. That was a point where that's major, that's drastic. And conversations of what to do, and even a conversation of which one do we save, which are really, really hard conversations. At that point, we decided we're not going to question ourselves, how are we going to do this? The question for us was, what are the needs in the community? Because that's the only answer we're going to be able to get so that we can continue. So we said, what are the needs in the community out there? So we pivoted based on the needs in the community. People were looking for chicken, for eggs, for toilet paper. I had all that. So I pivoted in bringing in the market and putting all that up for them and making sure that they knew, and everybody else took care of everybody, telling them, oh, the market right there, the market has it. We decided to really open our hearts and open our doors to the needs and to see how we were going to pivot. And we knew that we've never been through this. We've never been through a shutdown. We've never been through a pandemic. We're like, this is so uncertain, and it's not going to be a month, a week, or two. We had a feeling it's going to be longer. So we decided to really explore and make sure that we took care of the community. Our decision was to use or choose faith over fear and values over business. Those are two things. So we decided to just concentrate in the community.
And Teresa, just kind of going back to what I just heard you say, both your restaurants were heavily impacted from a revenue standpoint, obviously because of the closures, and you experienced a great loss in the percentage of your revenue.
Yes.
At that point, you had that conversation with your partner, your husband, to, hey, do we need to close one of these restaurants? Which one do we save? And then you started thinking about, there are still, needs of our community and our customers, our clients. We can pivot that way, right? And perhaps save our business from that standpoint. So why don't you now, and that is pretty amazing. I can imagine that at the time you're just kind of making these decisions kind of like real time, right? How did you, start then thinking about what you could do to help those in need? Because I do believe that you and Leo have been feeding the hungry within your community, and you've been bringing other businesses along to help to positively impact the community. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, definitely. Well, I think once we were having the conversation of what are we going to do, which one do we save, we came to the conclusion that we were just going to open up our doors. We couldn't close our eyes to the needs of the community. We were just going to open up our doors and do what we've always been doing, which is, feeding the community, helping the community, and empowering them. And we always say that, we cook food with love, and we always garnish it with gratitude. And that was very important for us. So it was, we decided, my husband and I decided, like, okay, we're just going to keep doing what we always do. And if we have to shut our doors, we will, but we will go out through the front doors. And, we will help as many people as we can. And at the end, if we have one restaurant, it's fine. If we have two restaurants, great. Maybe we have three. You never know, because opportunities come up. Or maybe you have none of the restaurants. And that was okay with us too. We were okay. We were in balance. And just very briefly, I think one of the things that just put me in great balance was a conversation within myself that ended up being a conversation with God. And I just gave it to him. I said, you are in control. I cannot do this anymore. You take over, and I will pay attention to the needs and to what I need to do. And it was a miracle, because the next day things changed. Then we started looking at the needs. And the first thing is, I turned around to organizations that I already help and are in close connection, not only as a partnership, as a business and organization, but as friends, so a lot of friends. And I called, or they called, and like we started feeding 25 homeless at a shelter, then 50, and then 100 a day, then 200 a day. And we pretty much were running an operation of 1,500 meals a day for the homeless shelters. Wow. So that is just a blessing. And the community just came out and outpoured support. And it's been an overwhelming support of people taking their food, coming in and dining, buying at our market. People would come in and say, what else can I buy from you? What else? Or people calling me, it's like, you always do a catering for me in December. Here, let me pay for it now. and we'll figure it out later. Or, you know, give me $1,000 gift card and I'll use it within the year. It was just amazing how the community came out and reached out to us. So if that happened to us, we have to share the blessings. And that's where I paid attention. So that's when we pivoted. And we also activated Paella with a Purpose, which is a program that my husband and I created to every paella that we make, first of all, has a purpose. Number two, we help somebody or a situation or a nonprofit. Within last year, before pre-COVID, we were able to raise over $180,000 in less than a year for nonprofits. So we activated that program and we started selling paella. We started selling 1 paella, 2 paellas there. We did it once a month. Now it's a monthly major kind of event where we're doing 10, 12 paellas within 4 hours because we got people that come in, dine in, take out. And then we started partnering with other small businesses and bring them together. So we have like a mini festival with social distance masks outside. We take over half of the parking lot and we bring other small businesses in to help them and support. And people go out and say, okay, what do you have? What are you selling? And people just buy to help them and support. And it's just been an amazing, incredible outcome. And with Paella with the Purpose, we've been able to feed more families. On top of the homeless shelters, we're doing probably about 1,000 meals a week for families in need, just locally. And we are distributing 250 boxes of fruit and veggies and milk and eggs, just a little grocery bag box to about 250 families a week. So, you know, it's been able us to also share the blessings with children with cancer, over 600 meals with children with cancer in Guadalajara too, in Mexico, and feed over 60 families in my husband's little village. It's not even a town, it's a little village, and there's a lot of need. And, you know, what we do best is food. So we want to make sure that people have food on the table.
Wow, Teresa, your story, yours and Leo's, is just so inspiring that in the middle of a pandemic, you have found opportunity. You have found opportunity to help others in the community. And not only that, also be a leader within, you know, your own community of business owners that are coming along and saying, hey, what can we do to help? I think when we talked last week, you shared that you've got, you know, drink vendors and your produce vendors coming in and saying, how can we help? And also, how can we be part of this change in the community? So kudos to you and to Leo for being a pillar of hope and inspiration to all of us, really, to say that even in the midst of need, we can always find ways to give back. And I want you to share also, I think you have a saying, is not what you have. Can you help me with that one?
Yes. In this saying, I have to also give credit to Dr. Betty Uribe, which a lot of people probably.
Yes, we all know her very well. I think she just got a new job too with JP Chase Morgan.
Yes, yes. And just saw her last week. And I heard her say it once and it really struck me. And from there, I just always believe it's so true because you always wait and say, oh, I'm going to help and I'll wait. Or it's like when when are you ready to have a baby? You're never ready. You're never ready to help. It's just, you have to do it. So the saying is, it's not what you have. It's what you do with what you have. And like you said, people would just call and say, can I stop by and just see you? And that was enough, you know, for me and for them, because they were also going through their own struggles. Mm-hmm. And Lori, you know, you said, you know, we were able to do a lot of things for the community and stuff. And I want to make sure people understand that we are going through our own struggles too. Very, very hard, tough decisions on a daily basis. I currently sleep about 3, maybe maximum of the day at 4 hours I sleep since COVID hit. We're going through a lot, but that doesn't mean that I cannot do a lot. And we still don't know if at the end we'll have one or two or three or none of the businesses, but that is okay. The impact is more important, and it is important to see why things come to you and the opportunities to help others. I think the impact that you do, especially in these harder moments, and not close your eyes to the needs of everybody else. And if you pull together, as we say, it is important to pull together. Together we can do this. I reached out to a few vendors, and then suddenly a few vendors just reached out to me and say, how can we make this work? You know, suddenly we got 20 cases of water from Pellegrino, and we're like, I didn't order this. And she's like, oh, no, you didn't. It's just about what I want to do just for you. Sell it, give it. I know you're doing things. People started to find out that we were doing things for the homeless. They're like, here, do this, do that. It's incredible, the support. And it's not what you have, it's what you do with it. If you have water, give that glass of water. If you have a hug, give that. You know, and that's what we were able to do. And we're doing much better, but still going through struggles. And like I said, you know, at the end, don't know the ending, but I do know, and I will enjoy the journey.
That is amazing, Teresa. And we really wish you the best, and just thank you for everything that you're doing for your local community. I urge anyone that is tuned in to also, if you are in the area, whether it's in Fountain Valley or in Laguna Hills, to come in and visit our friends, the Rasos. And again, Teresa, is there any one last few words that you want to leave our audience with?
Yes, definitely. I want to make sure that everybody knows it's kind of like a motto that we've always had. And we always say, never give up and always give back. There's always somebody in greater need than you. Always be grateful, always be positive. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we will get through this. I know it's for rough times. We're going through, like I said, major struggles, major decisions on a daily basis, staying positive. But it's important that we, you know, demos la mano so we can continue. So give the hand to your neighbor, to the next person. Just go out there and you know, keep smiling. I told somebody yesterday, just keep smiling. It increases your face value. So it's important that we do that. And I'm just very grateful to be here and be surrounded with amazing people. And it's all about who you surround with. And I'm just very grateful and blessed and for the opportunity, and encourage everybody to, if they need anything, reach out, but continue doing impact. Being small business doesn't mean small impact. Small business can do big impact. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Latina Style, and pleasure to be here.
We couldn't agree with you more, Teresa, that small businesses are creating great impact across the United States. And that's what we wanted to do today, highlight you and your husband and your business for all the wonderful things you're doing. So thank you, Teresa, again. And thank you to all of you who have joined us. Let's keep making an impact across the US and then show what we're made of. And now we will continue to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please join us for the Entrepreneur Spotlight, Learning Strategies for Success. Let's welcome moderator Shannon Jaques, Vice President of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce.
Well, hello, everybody, and we are so excited to be part of this great virtual event today with Latina Style Magazine. And so we thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to talk with our panel today of amazing businesswomen. So I think we should start with some introductions, and let's go ahead and start with Miss Patricia Chavez, who I believe is on our screen somewhere with PLC Enterprises. There you are.
There I am. Hello, Miss Shannon. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us and all your leadership, and of course, your dedicated and inspirational vice presidency now with our Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. So proud of you, Shannon, and thank you for joining us to moderate this panel. So appreciative of your leadership and service to our community.
Well, we appreciate you always, really working hard for our city, Albuquerque, and for the Hispano Chamber, and we appreciate these opportunities. But we have a great panel today, so we're going to move on to do some more introductions, and let's move next to Krista Martinez. Krista, if you could make yourself visible and share with us who you are, who you represent, and what you do. You might be on mute. Can you hear us? Oh, it's connecting. You are connecting, Miss Krista. Okay, now you can unmute. All this technology, right? This is what we've been going through the last few months, so we understand.
Thank you so much. I had earbuds in and I was listening with the dial-in, so I'm not exactly sure what happened. Can you hear me okay now?
We can hear you great.
It's so exciting to be the first one to go. So thank you so much for your patience. I'm Krista Martinez. I am president of the National Association of Women Business Owners here in New Mexico, NABO for short. I'm also the owner of Krista and Consulting LLC. Really briefly, NABO advocates on behalf of 60,000 women business owners across the state. We are a place of community. We advocate, and we also support through professional development experiences our members here in New Mexico, but then we have, again, a network across the state. And then my business, I provide operational consulting to clients across the country.
Well, welcome, Krista. We're excited to hear from you. You know a lot from both sides as a business owner, as well as representing women in business. So we're excited to hear from you. Next, let's move on to Martha Carpenter. Martha, oh, there you are. You're right there on the screen. Welcome. Please introduce yourself and who you're with.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. I'm Martha Carpenter. I own Pasando Tiempo Winery, Passing Time Winery. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I'm looking forward to answering everyone's questions and how we decided to start a winery here in Corrales, New Mexico.
Well, we're excited to hear from you. Welcome to the panel, and thank you so much for being with us. Next, we have Sylvia Ortiz-Spence with Silverado Apparel and Home. Sylvia, you are on.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored to be here today. And I have owned Silverado for 40 years. It's been quite an experience, and just very happy to be a part of, as I said, with all of you. We manufacture women's apparel. We also do home decor, and most recently, we are now working on hospitality projects. Our biggest one right now is the Sandia Resort. So we're getting ready to help them open that, and with our home decor in all the bedrooms. So it's kind of exciting.
Wow, that is so fun. I cannot wait to hear more about that. That is super fun. For those of you that are from or know about Albuquerque, New Mexico, our biggest casino. And so that's going to be super fun. Next, we have on the panel with us, Miss Mary Martinez, the current board chair of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber and small business owner. Mary, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Martinez. I've lived in Albuquerque for almost all of my life, but I still consider myself a native. I've owned Homestead for 18 years and was employed 2 years before I bought the company. And we've been providing non-medical home care for seniors in the metro area for that entire time. And during this COVID and everything else that's been going on, we've managed to maintain a pretty good pace, because no matter what, seniors still need care. So we're still trying to be their resource.
Thank you, Mary. And last to our panel, but definitely not least, is Miss Belen Barriaga, who is a lifestyle blogger. So, Belen, if you will introduce yourself and tell us all about you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
We can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm Belen Barriga. I'm the CEO and founder of Team Belu. It's a marketing consulting company here in the DC area. And I'm also in charge of the marketing for RNG Insurance nationwide, one of the biggest agencies here in the DMV. And I'm happy to be here with you guys. I've been attending Latina Style for the past 3 years, never as a panelist. So I'm really happy. Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome. Well, ladies, we have a lot to talk about in our time, so we're going to squeeze a lot into a little bit of time. But we want to talk definitely about the little white elephant in the room. We all know that the last 7 months has been an interesting adjustment time for not just all business owners, but women in business. So I'd like to just kind of go around and ask you guys, what have you learned? What can you share with our audience during this time of crisis, and how you've adjusted your business to keep it going? What words can we share with the viewing audience? And we'll just start in the order in which we did introductions. So Krista, we're going to start with you.
Great. Thank you so much. You know, my business is a virtual business. So when COVID hit, I already knew what Zoom was. I was already using Zoom, but there were a few little areas where I still needed to pivot to support my clients. So just really paying attention to what was happening in their businesses and being flexible and nimble. Really, I would say that would be the greatest lesson that I've learned during this time. But the virtual stuff has been in my wheelhouse for a number of years.
Well, I think I appreciate you saying that. I think some of us were learning to go virtual. We had a little bit of prior knowledge on how to use it, but I think that that's been a really big change in the world of business. So thank you for saying that. Martha, now you're in a completely different business. You can be a little virtual, but you're in the tasting business. So let's talk to you a little bit about what have you done to adjust in the winery business.
Absolutely. Our business is pretty much the same as a restaurant business. We need people to come in because they want to taste that wine and they want to see the ambiance and they want to listen to the vintner, who is my husband, who makes the wine. So we completely had to shut down when COVID started. What we learned from that was, and I get choked up thinking, we learned a lot. We had to learn to think out of the box. We had to think up different ideas of how to keep our business running. We had to come up with ideas like, for instance, we couldn't have anybody in the wine tasting room. So we thought, Zoom, we're going to do Zooms. Every Saturday, we're going to have a Zoom to do wine tasting. So we emailed everyone on our email list and we said, we're going to be tasting these 3 wines. Come by and pick up the wine, curbside delivery. Come pick up the wine, link into our Zoom, and we're going to sit there and we're going to talk about wine while you're sitting in your living room and we're sitting in the winery. It was a huge success, huge success. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have stayed in business. It was tough, but we're thinking out of the box for every business is really what you need to do. Don't get bogged down with, we're not going to be able to do it. We came up with different solutions on how to do it.
So, it sounds like we will get through, we can do attitude is what really got you through, and innovation. That's extremely creative. Curbside wine pickup, and join us and share with us at the same time. So hopefully, as we move forward in the world that we're in now, that's something that you can continue to do, because how great for people that can't be out or choose not to be out to be able to do that. So very innovative. Thank you so much, Martha. Same question to you, Sylvia. You are in the, the retail, if you will, business. And so you probably had to adjust, make a few changes. So tell us about that.
Boy, we really did have to adjust in so many ways. And probably the biggest adjustment that we came up with was because a lot of the stores were not open, and some of those that were looking for smaller items. So we thought, well, let's make masks. So that's what we did. And at the same time, it's not a big profit item for Silverado, but it didn't matter. It kept our name out there with all the stores. It kept us alive, and it kept money coming in the door so that my employees would all have a job. So I was really thankful to God for all of that. And we, at the same time, are donating masks to the homeless and to just different organizations here in Albuquerque. So I felt like it's a time to give back to the community as well. So that's been part of how we have survived.
Well, again, what a great, creative out of the box thinking. I know that masks have been super popular during this time and a great way to segue businesses, but the fact that you used it to keep your employees employed, number one, and number two, to keep your name relevant in the community, because that's what has unfortunately happened is some people have closed down and they're not out circulating and branding inside the community. So I think that that is super important, and kudos to you for coming up with that and being creative. Now, I'd like to move to somebody that I know has been busy during this time for sure. And I know you had to also make some adjustments in what you do within your industry. So Miss Mary Martinez, tell us about the last 7 months for you.
Well, we're frontline, so we were at ground zero when this all hit. And the first thing that we all did as a group was decide we weren't going to be henny penny and run around and jump and react to everything we were hearing. We wanted to respond to the research and the facts immediately. But the other thing was we knew we had to outfit every one of our caregivers, there's over 100 of them, with all of the PPE they were going to need on the front lines. So we scrambled to get our hands on hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, gowns, everything that we were possibly going to need. And also keep them calm and at ease and know that they had our support. We had to roll out a lot of very quick education on all of those protocols immediately to the caregivers. But at the same time, we knew our clients were going to be really nervous about caregivers coming into their homes. So we had to open up lines of communication to all of our clients. We have the same number of clients as caregivers. So that was 100 letters and phone calls that went out from me pretty much immediately. And so I'm sending out communications to the clients and the caregivers regularly on the fact that we still have no COVID among caregivers or clients or office staff, and reminding everyone the importance of sticking to the protocols. So it's a daily battle, and we wear our badge of pride that we don't have any cases, and we knock on wood that we maintain that. So yeah, we had to change everything that we do. We normally have caregivers coming in and visiting us, and clients stop by, but it's like a ghost town. No one pops into the office anymore. If they do, they pull up and it's curbside PPE delivery or log note delivery. They pull up and we walk out with masks and gloves and hand them whatever it is that they need. So that touch that we normally have, we're missing that. And I know everybody else is too. So we try to make those connections in other ways if we can.
So, definitely virtual hugs are not the same as in-person hugs. We know that. But Mary, I think it's super important out there for everybody that is a business owner and for everybody watching that the safety and security of the employees, the staff, and the clientele is first and foremost during this time. And so I want to say thank you, Mary, for making that first and foremost in your business, as we all should, and that you're making sure that your clientele is staying safe, because you are working with a high risk clientele when you're working with seniors. So we appreciate that bit of information. Now, Belen, you're in the insurance business. So let's talk a little bit about how things have changed for you guys, and what are some of the lessons you've learned over the last few months?
Well, I am in the marketing business and also in the insurance business. So I will tell you a little bit of both sides. Insurance never stops. We install everything in the systems for our coworkers to keep working. We've been really, really busy. Insurance never stops. We do now. Actually, we have more business now because the agency is doing some health insurance. Before it was only auto insurance, home insurance, life insurance. So we start adding more services. Everybody was working from home. Insurance never stopped. But on the marketing side, we have to accommodate a lot because as a consultant company, we were always doing commercials, networking events, and with social distancing, the events had to be canceled, all of them for the rest of the year. So our idea changed completely. What we decided to do is use that budget to create appreciation boxes for the clients with the logo of the companies. In this case, of course, Nationwide, RNG Insurance, and other clients. And these little boxes had coffee mugs, hand sanitizer, masks, candles, a drink, a mix for people that drink, that they can have a drink at home after having a tough day at work or during Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So we partner up with other local businesses and we create these boxes. And then these boxes were dropped off at each of the clients' homes or offices if they were still working. So they were receiving something from the company to keep in touch and to keep the audience engaged to it, even though we're not doing happy hour, we're not meeting for lunch, and that we're something to them. And I think it worked perfectly. However, it has been really tough not to see each other and not to be able to have those conversations face to face. But again, with insurance, RNG Insurance never stopped. They grew, they took the time to move to a bigger office during that time, not like to move, but to start looking to buy something bigger for the community. They've been trying to do that for a long time, and they took this time to really research and finally found it. So it was a big change for Nationwide, for RNG Insurance here locally.
So I love what you said, kind of along the lines of what Sylvia stated, which was relevancy. How do I keep my name out there, my branding, my marketing during this time? And so what a great way to do so by putting little boxes together and remembering to remind the client, hey, we're still here. You know, maybe we're not open and we're not doing those live hugs like we said we want to do, but we are still here for you. And so that is a great way to be creative during this time. Now, what I'd like to do is kind of move into something I think will be a little bit more exciting. And it's kind of a two-way, kind of two-part question, but we would like to know from you ladies, because you guys are at the top of your game. You guys have been in business for many, many years. You're extreme success stories, and we want to be, you know, share these inspirational stories with everybody. I'd like to know from you guys, how did you start? What was the moment in which you decided you were going to start your own business? And what advice do you have for somebody that's sitting there right now watching going, gosh, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go and get my business license tomorrow. So Krista, we're going to start with you.
Great, thanks, Shannon. You know, it was one of those things that just came to be. I was a nonprofit executive a number of years ago, left, and I was a member of NAWBO, and one of my NAWBO sisters said, you need to start your own business. And so I had thought, why not? So, you know, I've learned that doors close and opportunities come in ways that you never imagined. So what I've learned is you have to pivot and you have to be looking for those things that are your drivers. What is important to you as an individual? Because that also drives the decisions you make as a business owner. When you figure that out, then you are able to map and curate what you want to do. And that's what I was able to do, is I was able to identify what I did not want and figure out what was really important to me. What were my drivers? It was my family. It was that balance that I know we all struggle with, right? And so those were priorities for me. It was never for me about the financial gain. I knew those things would come, but it was my community, my family, and that balance. So those were my drivers. And once I was able to identify those, then I was able to move forward and figure out what I needed to do as a business owner, because it was still, you know, it was kind of a quick shift.
Well, thank you, Krista. That's really great. You know, I'm taking notes as we talk, so I want to do a little review, but I really love how you said you found what was important to you and you worked around that. That is super important when starting a business. It really will lead to success because it's your center. So thank you for that piece of information. You know, Martha, same question. Let's talk about the moment you said, I'm going to go for it. And then what word of advice do you have to somebody that's thinking that right now?
Well, again, our business is similar, parallel to restaurants. And, you know, when somebody decides to start a restaurant, they think, well, gosh, you make good enchiladas or tortillas or whatever, you should start a restaurant. Well, my husband, we've always loved wine, and he wanted to make wine. And I said, sure, make wine for us, because that would save us money from having to go buy wine. We could make our own wine. Well, after years of doing that, he decided, because everyone told us he made good wine, and he surely does make good wine. He said, I think we could sell our wine. And I said, being the business person in the equation of our relationship, I said, fine, let's make a business plan. Let's make a 5-year business plan. Let's sit down and figure out, how are we going to sell our wine? Where are we going to sell it? How much are we going to sell? So I had him do an exercise, and he worked on a 5-year business plan. Then I reviewed it, and we said, okay, step 1, this is what we're going to do. And every year since, and we've been in business for 11 years, and our business has just grown every year, is we make our business plan. We decide, what are we going to do this year? How many cases did we sell last year? What was our net profit, not our gross profit? And what are we projecting to do the coming year? And not just in 2021, we do it for 5 years. So my advice is to people, you're going to start a business, make a business plan. How is it going to succeed? And then there's always that one thing, what's your exit plan? Because are you going to do it forever? Or are you going to just continue and never see, how am I going to exit? Am I going to sell the business, or am I just going to close it down? So there's 2 plans. There's your business plan, and then there is your exit plan, which everyone should make as well. So we kind of started that way, in just loving wine. And because when you love to do something, I think you're more successful doing it.
Thank you, Martha. Again, great information. I'm so excited. This is a lot of fun. I'd like to move over to Sylvia. Same question for you, Sylvia. What really was the driver that said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do business. I'm going to be a business person. And what advice do you have for somebody that is thinking that right now?
The biggest thing that happened for me almost 40 years ago was getting a big order from Neiman Marcus. And that cinched the deal for me. I wasn't going to be a little small-time weaver, which we had been doing. I was going to go for it. And in doing that, I've really learned one very important lesson, and that is to be flexible. There may be some years when what I've designed with my team may not be doing as well as I thought it was going to be. So I will pivot, and then I will get into home furnishings. Like, for instance, right now we're finding that because a lot of people are at home, they're taking a look around and saying, boy, we need to like redo this or redesign that. That has really come into play. So you just have to, I think, be flexible. That would be my biggest lesson that I would give to anybody. The other thing is, it's kind of funny, we're talking about exiting, the exit plan. I wonder sometimes if I will have an exit, or if I will be doing this and creating things for all this little viejitas as we get older. You know, I don't know where this will take me, but it sure has been a lot of fun, very challenging.
Thank you. And yes, exit plans are super important, but starting a business is really it's hard, and you have to make those big decisions. So that little piece of information is so important about being flexible. Now, Mary, same question to you. What was the driver for you to go into this industry and start your own business? And what advice do you have for somebody that might want to start today?
I actually think this business found me. My whole life, people have teased me about being an old people magnet. They always find me. They always ask for my help, and I'm happy to do that. I had wonderful, beautiful mentors in both of my grandmothers, very, very strong women. But I think what motivated me was that the 2 of them had very poor health care. They grew up very rural. They both lived very rural until they passed away. But the healthcare wasn't there, and that bothered me always. So when I went to college, I started studying gerontology, and that's what I got my degree in. And from there, I learned from so many different people. I sought people who were smarter than me, which there are a lot of them. So I reached out to those folks. I learned a lot, got to work with the state as a case manager, learned the hard way about what's lacking in the elderly community. So I made it my mission to fill those holes. Came back to Albuquerque, started working for the original owner of Home Instead. And about a year into my tenure with him, he told me he wanted to retire and that I needed to buy the company. And I said no. I said no for a whole year. And he finally said to me, well, why? What is your argument? And I said, well, I have two babies at home. I have a 2-year-old and I have a 4-year-old. And so he says, well, don't you realize that once you become the owner, you have more freedom than you do now. You can bring your kids to work with you. You can work from home. You can do all these things. And that kind of is what was the catalyst to me saying, okay. And he was right. And then my kids ended up growing up in the industry. So I was hoping to create that next generation. Yeah, both boys, neither one of them interested, but they loved being able to go and visit the seniors that I was taking care of or my company was taking care of. But I would say, to people, just, find people who inspire you and look to sources for funding and guidance and creating business plans like Martha was talking about, but get a system in place. And, I waited a whole year before I said yes. And I thought about it later and said, well, I could have been an owner for a whole year by now. So if you're going to do it, do it. But, have a safety net, have some people around you who support you, and do what you love, because you'll never work a day in your life if you do.
That is absolutely the truth. I love that you said that, because that would hopefully be the goal of every entrepreneur out there, is that do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. So thank you for those words, Mary. Belen, same question. I know that you do work for insurance, but you do some stuff on your own as well. So share with us a little bit about how you got started branching out on your own, and what word of advice would you give somebody that says, I'm not sure if I should do it?
Well, it's a little bit of both, right? I was in traditional media before having my own company. I was a host and also a reporter in radio and on TV. And I learned from the other side of the picture, I will say. Like, I was creating commercials, I was writing scripts. So at that point, I was trying to learn and understand my clients, or who I was representing when I was doing these commercials, but I didn't have my own company. So when those contracts ended, I decided that I had the idea and I have the knowledge to represent those clients and to give them a little bit of advice of what works for them. So now with social media, that is what motivated me to keep doing it and to create pictures, videos, design websites, logos, and have partners for that. And with the insurance company, I was working for them as in-house as a marketing rep, trying to be the liaison between the community and the agency. And when I opened my own company, I just wanted to keep them as a client too. So what I would say is, if you have the knowledge and if you have the ideas, and if you also have those relationships that can become clients, and if they like your ideas, why not? And that's what worked for me. So that's how I started.
Thank you so much, Belen, and all of that is so important. And you guys have all given such great information, and we're going to recap that here in just a minute. But as we start to wind down our time, I really want to just kind of pinpoint something that I think is very, very important to small business owners, especially when they're in their beginning stages. But I want to talk to you about your mentors. And, we don't have a whole lot of time, but maybe if we could each just take a minute to talk about who was your mentor and why is the mentor-mentee relationship so important in growing in business? And so, Krista, you get the #1 spotlight again, my friend. If you could talk to us about that.
Mentorship in business ownership is tremendous. And as women, as Latinas, we are natural connectors anyway. I have been so fortunate to be able to reach up to women business owners who've been around for a long time for advice, for experience. And then as I've grown in my business, reaching back. So it's really, for me, you reach up, you get that help, you reach back, you help someone behind you. So I always have mentors, but then now people come to me for advice. So you build just this really amazing network of women that have your back when you are feeling like, sometimes we get in our head and and we have that speak, and you can talk it through with your mentor or vice versa. And you're able to bounce ideas, business ideas. You know, I'm looking at some options. You know, what do you think? Have you done this before? So having that connectivity is really critical in your business. And I really think starting out, for those women business owners who are just starting, having just those key champions who are, you know, and look around, who are your cheerleaders? They're out there. They are out there championing you and pushing you forward and saying, sister, get out of your box. And that's really important. So mentoring is tremendous. And I'm so lucky that I've been able to do the same to other women business owners.
Thank you, Krista, and I love the word cheerleader. So I'm going to move over to Martha. Same question to you, Martha. You know, did you have a particular mentor, and how important is that for a small business owner?
Well, I think it's very important. In the wine industry, there's not very many women that own a winery. It's a male dominant field. So I stuck out trying to fit in with all the other wineries, and we were little, but I didn't give up. I kept calling them and asking them, what about this? How do you do this? What do you think about us doing this? So I picked their brain. But actually, I think my biggest mentor is my husband. We played on each other. We help each other. We motivate each other. We give each other advice. He's my biggest hero, if I have to pick a hero, because he's the one that will say, here it is. How do you think we should do it? And we figure it out together. It's great to listen to other people, because a business is a business no matter what it is. You're going to go through the same challenges. They're going to be a little bit different, but it's all about how are we going to make the business work and enjoy it too.
Enjoy it. No, I agree. Mary, we're going to move over to you. And I love that Martha said heroes. We have cheerleaders and heroes now, but I'm going to go back to the same question, Mary. We don't have a lot of time, but I do want to ask you, did you have a particular mentor, and how important is it for you to mentor now?
I did have a very important mentor when I was in college. My professor, my gerontology professor, took me under her wing. She introduced me to public speaking, made me do public speaking as a junior in college. And it was hard. She said, you know, you have a voice, you need to share it. You're an advocate for a population that's generally marginalized. So you need to speak up and you need to speak loudly. So I did, and I haven't stopped. So going forward from there, that encouragement for me meant me being where I am now. So every time I have a chance to influence a young person, I do. Yeah, they may not even know me, and I'm stopping them and I'm encouraging them, because it may just be your voice that they need to hear. So my advice would be to be a voice, you know, as far as mentoring someone else. You don't know if you're the last nudge that it takes for somebody to take that step. So just support other people around you.
Thank you so much, Mary. That's so important. Sylvia, real quick, same to you. Did you have a mentor, and how important is that in small business?
Well, I think mentors change. And I would have to say that my husband has been my #1 supporter, my rock, and family members and salespeople. And at the same time, the people that work for me, I really want to listen to what they have to say and what they have to offer. So I think my employees have been pretty instrumental in mentoring me.
Wow, that is really awesome. Thank you for saying that, because obviously we couldn't be business owners without our incredible employees and staff that support what we do every day. And Belen, if you would take just a moment so that we can wind down our time here, did you have a mentor, and how important is that to you in your daily work? You're on mute, Belen, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? I would say that one of my mentors would be my mom. They are in Ecuador, and I feel like my dad always worked for different hospitals and different clinics, and my mom was the one visualizing to open their own business for him to work in the clinic that belongs to the family instead of working in different environments. And she made it happen, even though I was on the other side of the world living here and they were in Ecuador. Just seeing that motivated me to start younger, I would say, and to take the risk younger. And I will also say that clients are mentors, like you learn through the process, you learn that everybody is different. And I also have a life coach that I've been working on in the past 7 months since the pandemic started. And I think right now she is my mentor. So I will agree with Sylvia that mentors change and you adapt to it. But I would totally say that I look up to my mom and how she opened up a clinic and now she has been successful for the past 12 years.
Well, thank you so much for that. And ladies, we just have about a minute left. So Patricia, I think you're going to come back on to help us kind of toast out our panel. And while we're waiting for Patricia to come on, I just want to do a quick recap on the importance of what we talked about today in the panel. We learned about the importance of family and balance when you're starting a business and how important it is to have a business plan. We have to be flexible and we have to learn to pivot. And we always have to inspire and be inspired. And I love what Belen said about understanding and be knowledgeable about what you do. We also talked about our mentors, who we also said are heroes and cheerleaders and champions and supporters. And what that leads me to believe is that as a community, as a group of women business owners, Hispanic business owners, how important it is for us to band together and support each other. So I want to say thank you to our panel. And Patricia, before we leave, I think we have some treats for the ladies, right?
We do. Of course, I am holding up Pasando Tiempo, Rosé, and aquí está mi vaso. Of course, celebrating our entrepreneurial panel and our wonderful facilitator moderator, Shannon Hawkes, our Vice President for the Hispano Chamber of Commerce. If you don't indulge in vino, then pick up your cafecito cup and join me. But this is the first of a couple of toasts. Brindis to all our entrepreneurs.
We're going to end up kind of toasted by the time we get to the rest.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to toast. Yeah, and then we're going to end with the toast. Gracias, mujeres. Gracias, Roberto y Lupita. Salud.
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 Thank you, Sylvia, for our beautiful scarves.
Oh, you're welcome.
We
Enjoy them.
Silverado and everybody on the panel today. Thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful, Robert. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you, everybody. Wonderful job.
Cheers.
Salud.
Salud.
And of course, you know that was Patricia, right? The one who instigated that.
And we're not ended.
And now, our mistress of ceremony, Dr. Carla Aragon, an Emmy Award-winning journalist with 40 years of broadcast experience. She produces and does on-camera and voice work for various television and radio projects through her company, Spirited Voice and Talent. Prior to her freelance work, she was lead television news anchor and reporter at KOB TV in Albuquerque and morning co-anchor and reporter at KNBC TV in Los Angeles. Welcome, Dr. Carla Aragon.
Bienvenidos, everybody, and good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am thrilled to be a part of this amazing conference that celebrates and recognizes the accomplishments of Latina business owners, Latina leaders, and Latina professionals. You know, I first entered the workforce as a young journalist, a Latina journalist in the 70s, and I have to say it was quite lonely. I have noticed, though, that through the years, the number of Latinas in every field has grown, especially here in New Mexico, and their accomplishments are mind-boggling. So I am so excited to be involved with this effort today, sponsored by Latina Style.
Can you please turn on your camera?
Okay.
Thank you.
There you go, yay!
Thank you.
So, okay, before we begin our awards program, we have a special message from the Lieutenant Governor of the state of New Mexico, Howie Morales.
Welcome to this installment of Latina Style Business Series Conference, this time virtually, and from my state of New Mexico. Thank you to Patricia Chavez and Cynthia Jaramillo, and to Robert Bard and everyone at Latina Style Magazine, a truly groundbreaking publication that has taken the bold vision of founder Ana Maria Arias and created a vehicle for economic empowerment for Latinas across the United States. And to me, it's particularly personal because the community I come from here in southern New Mexico is a community where the movie Salt of the Earth was filmed. And in the movie and in history, we know that when miners were thought that the strike was going to be put to an end because they were placed in jail, it was the power of the women, the Latina women, who stood strong, took the kids to the picket line, and continued to dream to ensure that there was going to be safe work environments and equitable pay. On behalf of myself and Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do to support and inspire more entrepreneurship among a special group of Americans who are enormously resourceful and successful at business enterprise today. We know that well, right here in New Mexico. The governor and I are the only Hispanic governor and lieutenant governor team in America today, and I am grateful for her leadership. It's a good partnership that works and is productive. Maybe because of our unique experiences and perspectives as Latino leaders who understand the crucial importance of family and education to our communities, we have made education our top priority. We are committed to ensuring that Hispanic and Latino New Mexicans will have the opportunities to realize their dreams of a better life. The key to those dreams, of course, is education. We've made historical financial investments in our classrooms and in our teachers here in New Mexico so that more Hispanic children get better outcomes, graduate high school and go to college, get advanced degrees, and become successful business managers and owners. That's what we want. That's how we end poverty, and that is how we spread prosperity to people in places that have been left behind for far too long. I want to say just a word about the unparalleled challenges we face today, both as policymakers and as business people. This pandemic is pushing us all to our utmost limits of endurance. I can't even imagine what some of you are going through right now. That is why we need more help from Washington. So remember this, please, elections matter. And we've got one coming up shortly. Let's all make sure we get the leaders soon who will stand behind our states and our communities, our small and minority businesses, our workers, and our families. It's a question of our survival.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your kind words. And now I would like to welcome our next presenter, Monica Villalobos. Monica was named President and CEO of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce after serving as the Vice President and Foundation Executive Director for 7 years. In this role, she is responsible for the strategic growth initiatives of the Chamber. She is also the operator of the Phoenix Minority Business Development Agency Business Center.
the Native American Business and Economic Development Center, and Ascend Phoenix, funded by JP Morgan Chase Foundation. She is also the recipient of the Latina Style Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2015. And today she will share her insights as a community leader and entrepreneur. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. Let me see if I can get, there we go. Our technology is working today. That's always a good thing when the technology gods cooperate with us, right? Thank you so much to Robert, Latina Style, for the opportunity to celebrate women in New Mexico and across the country. You know, until 1987, women in the US required a man's signature on a business license. Since that restriction has been lifted, women have become the fastest growing business segment, particularly Latinas. Hispanic women now own over 1/3 of all businesses owned by minority women. These are difficult times for all of us, but we see more and more Latinas legitimizing their side hustle, or chambaladito as I like to call it, and stepping up their game. Any recovery strategy must include women at the forefront of business to keep our economy afloat. Why? Well, research indicates 5 key findings. 1, female-owned firms generate higher revenues. 2, female-owned firms create more jobs than their male-owned peers. 3, women executives significantly improve startup company performance. 4, women are more effective in senior leadership roles. And 5, women have a larger appetite for growth. As a former recipient of the Latina Style Business Award, I can tell you that the awardees have been tapped for success today. You join a sisterhood of guerreras, so welcome to the fight. Thank you so much.
Wow, Monica, those are wonderful words, and thank you so much. And congratulations to you for your award, especially in 2015. And thank you for your continued support to the Hispanic community. Next, I would like to welcome our very own president and CEO of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, our dear Ernie C. de Vaca, and my future neighbor. Ernie began in this capacity in June 2017, having previously served as a vice president of conventions and tourism for the chamber. The mission of the chamber is to promote economic development, to enhance economic opportunities, and to provide business and workforce education with an emphasis on the Hispanic and small business community in Albuquerque and New Mexico. Ernie currently serves on the board of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Ernie.
Well, thank you, neighbor.
Neighbor, yes.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why. Let's see, start my video. Here we go. Wow, nice to see you, Carla. You know, I can't
Hi, wonderful to see you, especially for this event.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm honored to be here, and thank you so much for introducing me. It's an honor to be introduced by you. So I am going to introduce Rudy Becerra for the Latina Style Founders Award. Let me just say a few things about Rudy, if I may. He is the president of Latin American Affairs at Venture Employer Services. He had a long career at Coca-Cola, where he retired as the Senior Vice President of Office of Latin American Affairs. He also served as Special Assistant to Ronald Reagan, President Ronald Reagan, on Latino and Small Business Affairs. He's a native, Carla, of where I'm at right now, in Bareilles. And he graduated, he's a Lobo from the University of New Mexico. He grew up from modest roots to become an amazing person, a mentor to me, and a mentor to so many people. I have to just say this, Carla, that so many people, when I mention that I know Rudy Becerra, they go, I know Rudy Becerra. I know Rudy Becerra. He helped my career. He did amazing things for our organization. So I know he's been involved with LULAC, the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. He's a former chair of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber. And one of the things that's amazing about Rudy is he's only one of 3 people that have ever been recognized for lifetime achievement from the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. The other two were Senator McCain and also Representative John Lewis. So, I mean, he is in a class by himself. So, you know, let me just say we're excited that Rudy is part of this great, as a founder of this great Latina style. We're excited about today's conference. Let me just say one thing about, we were just talking about the women as mentors and all the success. I have 4 older sisters. I've been mentored by women my entire life. And I think so far so good. So I want to say congratulations. And I think that's going to continue on more and more. So Rudy lives in Atlanta with his wife, Lois, and he has 2 daughters. I'd like to introduce Rudy at the next as the Latina Style Founders Award winner.
Thank you, Ernie. And I think Robert Bard wanted to say a few things about Rudy as well. Robert, are you around? Did you want to say a few words about Rudy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I hand it over to you. And thank you, Ernie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carla. You know, it's been almost 30 years that Rudy and I have known each other and have been friends and collaborators in many things. This is a very special award for us. It's a special award because 26 years ago, my late wife, Ana Maria Arias, and myself were trying to find some traction, some partners that would believe in really the future of the Latina entrepreneur. Through my close friend and Rudy's close friend, Randy Belcher Torres, you know, we were part of a gang that you know, that like I indicated in my opening comments this morning, we were the New Mexico gang that we would hang around in Washington, D.C. So when Ana Maria wanted to launch the magazine, very few people thought that there was really viability for a Latina magazine, on top of that in English, and a Latina magazine that addressed Latina professionals. So the people kept telling us, well, where are they? You know, who are they? And it was a very, very difficult challenge. One of our friends that really came up to the plate and said, you know, don't listen to any of the naysayers. Don't listen to any of the people who actually are telling you not to do this. Let's go with it. And Randy and Rudy and Rudy's brother Frank were instrumental in helping us launch the magazine. So Rudy hosted the launching reception of Latina Style in Congress at the Raven Building. It was a magnificent event. We had invited the Latina members of Congress. There was 3 of them, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, Lucille Roybal, and Nidia Velasquez. And they came and they helped us launch the magazine right there in Congress. And as soon as the rest of Congress began to smell the food, because of course we had a cater event, began to smell the food, every congressman, you know, even all the way from the other side of the street, from the Senate, people began to come in to see what in the world was going on, what was going on there. And so, Rudy, we can't thank you enough. It goes without saying that without you in the beginning, you really changed the tone, and without you in the very beginning, and also, you know, people like your parents, actually, that even they were involved. The whole Becerra family was involved. Latina Style, who knows if we were here today. So it is my great pleasure and my great honor and with great gratitude that we thank Rudy Becerra and present him with the Founders Award.
Thank you, Robert. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you clearly.
First of all, I'd like to thank, first of all, it's a great honor to receive this special award from Latina Style magazine. like to thank Robert for those beautiful words. Ernie Sidabaca, appreciate your leadership. Monica Villalobos, you two individuals showcase what Latino power is all about, running the two best chambers, in my opinion, in the country. This President Founders Award is something that I was not anticipating. Robert, you know, I thought now that I'm semi-retired, people would let me go in the sunset and forget about me. But it's so beautiful to see that people remember where things started and how we began Latina Style Magazine. As mentioned, and part of my introduction, I've had an outstanding and blessed opportunity to work with some very interesting people and individuals. I had the pleasure of working for President Ronald Reagan in the White House. President Reagan was considered by many historians as one of the most popular political figures in modern history. President Reagan was a man who had a clear vision of what he wanted to accomplish as president: less government, no new taxes, a strong national defense, and a balanced budget. He did 3 out of the 4. The only thing he didn't do was balance the budget, but he always stayed focused and never deviated from his mission. But what that experience gave to me was an opportunity to meet a tremendous amount of people all over America. My responsibilities at the White House, the Office of Public Liaison, was to be liaison with small business, the Latino community, the Asian community, the Arab community, and the Asian community. So I was able to meet a number of individuals in all these sectors. I opened the doors to the White House to them. And that's when I started to get to know Ana Maria and Robert, Randy, and Governor Apodaca. You know, that's when this whole thing started. I was also great and honored to work for an individual who brought me to the Coca-Cola Company 31 years ago, the former chairman and CEO, Roberto Goizueta. If not the first, certainly one of the first Hispanics to head a Fortune 500 company. Mr. Goizueta was a visionary leader, and he incorporated intelligence, loyalty, and integrity in everything he did. On a personal note, Mr. Goizueta really liked to share cuentos and dichos with the staff at Coca-Cola. Just to break the monotony right now, make it maybe put a little bit of humor, I'd like to share with the audience some of Mr. Goizueta's favorite dichos, many of which were passed to him by his grandfather. Cuando la barba de tu vecino se está quemando, cuida que la tuya está bien mojada. When your neighbor's beard is on fire, make sure yours is soaking wet. Si no te levantas por algo, por cualquier cosa, tropezarás. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. No hay nada peor que el que habla mucho y no dice nada. There's nothing worse than an articulate dummy. I hope each and every one of you have an opportunity to work with inspiring leaders like I have. Latina Style Magazine is what we are showcasing today. The ongoing contributions that Latinas have made and continue to make to the fabric of America is continuing today, and it's outstanding with some of the role models that Latina Style Magazine has highlighted through the years. This magazine also provides useful information on business development, technology, investment, career, fashion, and beauty, and many other aspects of Latina life. Latina Style Magazine also produces a National Latina Symposium, as well as excellent diversity leadership conferences and business forums throughout the year. These are great learning and networking events. Believe me, I've attended many of them, and they're second to none. I'm also extremely proud to have personally been involved in these efforts 26 years ago, but it started before then. I've known Robert Bard and Latina Style founding publisher Ana Maria Arias for well over 32 years. It was during the beginning of 1988 that former New Mexico Governor Jerry Apodaca, who I understand might be taking part in today's event, was one of the founding publishers of Hispanic Magazine. Robert, my good friend, Randy Belcher Torres, and Ana Maria worked on that initiative. That was a major milestone for Hispanics at that time. But during that time, around 1994, had already transferred to the Coca-Cola company. Randy informed me that Robert and Ana Maria were basically going to launch a new magazine, a new publication called Latina Style on their own. He also indicated that 3 Latina congressional leaders that Robert mentioned, the Honorable Lucio Royba Allard, Ileana Ross-Lehtinen, and Nadia Velasquez, were going to be on the cover of this launch issue. The idea of 3 Latina congressmen, a Mexican American, a Cuban American, and a Puerto Rican on the cover was brilliant. I said, Randy, I need to get in there. Well, it didn't take much convincing. I convinced Coca-Cola we had to be part of the launch. And as Robert mentioned, it was a success from day one. I just want to thank Robert Bard, Lupita Colmenero, and the staff of Latina Style for keeping up this great publication, especially in today's tough times. You guys are resilient, you're trendsetters, and I'm so proud of everything that you keep doing. Keep up the great work. You make us all look good. And again, thank you. Muchísimas gracias a todos for this special recognition. I'm so proud and honored to receive it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rudy. Let's see. Thank you so much, Rudy. Okay, I'm waiting to transfer the, there we go. Well, I'm sorry. You know, we with all these technology glitches, we seem to forget that Rudy is over there in Albuquerque and I'm here in Dallas. You know, we're able to do this all the way, you know, across the country. And that is where technology is taking us. Rudy, thank you once again. Déjame decirte un par de dichos nuestros o míos. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. You know, tell me who you're hanging around with and I'll tell you who you are. And Rudy, thank you so much for andar con nosotros todos estos años. Another saying that I would like to say is, extiende una mano y recibe un corazón. So be always ready to extend a hand, a helping hand. The 3 Congresswomen, and let me see if you guys can, if I can get them in front of you, of Latina Style. ¿La ven ahí? ¿Los ven ahí? Well, it's difficult with this virtual there, kind of. Part of the original cover of the magazine 26 years ago. Since then, we've been able to profile so many Latinas, excellent Latinas. Of course, you know, in Congress, if you look at them, two of the original Latinas that were in the cover are still there. But Ileana Roslane, who was the very, very first Latina in Congress, retired at the end of last year. So, you know, for us, it's been a pleasure and an honor. Now we have, you know, I think it's 19 Latinas in Congress, if I'm correct. But we have been able to keep up with them. And, you know, and especially now that we look at an election coming up in a couple of weeks, we hope to see every Latina reelected. We also even have a senator right now in Congress. The hardest challenge that Latina Style faces sometimes when we're doing awards is, to Rudy, of course, it was a no-brainer because he was the one. But when we come to each market, we like to recognize a Latina entrepreneur that is really has excelled above all others in her success with her business. And we are delighted that for the city of Albuquerque, our Latina Entrepreneur of the Year for this year is Miss Tina Cordova. And there she is with her award. Tina is a native New Mexican. She was born in the small town of Tularosa. She is the president of Queston Construction, Inc., which she founded in 1990 with her partner, Russ Stewart. Tina is also co-founder of the Tula Rosa Basin Downwinders Consortium, and she currently serves in the New Mexico Highland University Foundation Board. She has been an exemplary Latina entrepreneur. And Tina, it is with great joy that we feel we take a part, you know, a little bit of part of your success in our heart, because every time a Latina succeeds, we feel is part of our success as well. So from everybody, Tina Cordova, Question Construction, Latina Entrepreneur of the Year for the city of Albuquerque. There we go.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody from Albuquerque, New Mexico, from beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's such an honor to receive this recognition from Latina Style magazine and from Robert Bard. And Robert, I just want to say to you that for so many years, you have given Hispanic women, professional Hispanic women, a place and a platform. And that is very special because you saw that there was great potential amongst us. And you knew, and instinctively, you have supported that idea all these many years. And it is such a beautiful thing that you have carried on the legacy of Ana Maria. And I just want to say you're a gentleman amongst gentlemen, Robert, and I very much appreciate this recognition. I want to thank so many people, so please bear with me. I first want to thank Patricia Chavez and Cynthia Jaramillo, the women who put me forward for this recognition, who nominated me. I will say that as a successful Hispanic woman who's owned her own business for 30 years, a business that she established, I didn't do this in a vacuum. I didn't do this alone. I always had the support of many wonderful people like Patricia and Cynthia, people who have stood next to me, stood beside me, who have supported me, who have had my back. And without people like them, you know, our success isn't possible. And so these ladies have known all along that extending a hand to another person as they have made it their way up the ladder is important, and they've dedicated their lives to doing that. So I greatly appreciate both of them very much. I want to thank the members of my family that work with me, my partner, Russ Stewart, my son, David Montoya, my cousin, Luis Vigil. They're all part of our management team, and without them, I wouldn't be here, honestly. They support the vision that I have for our company. They help me to manage what it is that we do day in and day out. I'm not an absent owner. I am here all the time, and they are also. And so they stand with me in the success of this company, and this award and honor is as much for them as it is for me. I also want to reflect on the fact that I have workers out there today and 365 days out of the year, most of the time, who represent me. And I will tell you that most of them are immigrants de Mexico. And without them, nothing would get built. And their hard work in a country where we hardly ever regard and respect the hard work of them, I have to say that their hard work is not missed by me. I understand that nothing gets built without them. And so I want to absolutely reflect on the fact that my company depends on them, and I'm so grateful for their hard work. I want to also recognize my mother and my father, Rosalie and Anastasio Cordova, because without them, I wouldn't be here today. They were the ones that talked to me about success since the time I was a child. They're the ones that put the idea in my head that anything was possible, that if I had an idea and I was willing to work hard enough for it, that it would be possible for me. And so I love my mother and my late father, Anastasio, and without them, I wouldn't be here. And I just want to say something to all of those women who are listening or watching today. Things happen in life. We set out plans, but it doesn't always go as we had planned. For example, I never expected to be a teenage mother, but I was, and I still was able to get a master's degree in 6 years. I never expected that I would go through a divorce and have to file for bankruptcy afterwards, but that happened, and I was still able to build a successful business from almost nothing. I never expected to be diagnosed with cancer, but I was. And I still only missed 3 days of work going through surgery and cancer treatment. And the reason I tell you those things is because we're going to face challenges. You're going to face challenges. But don't let those challenges take you far down, just like you don't too far down, and don't let your successes take you too far up. Stay grounded and always remember to extend that hand and to get involved in your community. When I first started out on this journey, I joined the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, and I always say it was one of the best things I did because it immediately turned work around for me. And from there came so many wonderful things. I managed to serve on the board of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for 6 years. I was their legislative chair for 5 years. And I traveled all the United States and even parts of other countries representing the chamber. And it was the most remarkable experience of my life. And out of that came my advocacy work that I do now on behalf of the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium. We're a group of people that have come together to bring attention to the negative health effects suffered by the people of New Mexico as a result of the nuclear test that was done at the Trinity site. And all of those things came to me through my hard work and dedication, not only to my business, but to my community. And so again, many thanks to Latina Style Magazine for this opportunity to receive this recognition. Many thanks to Robert Bard. I want to also give a shout out to Tanya behind the scenes, people who do all the hard work. Thank you, Tanya. And thank you so much. And again, beautiful day in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations once again to Rudy and Tina for this well-deserved recognition for your support to our community. Rudy, we go way back, and I know that you have nurtured so many young journalists, so thank you for that and for your dichos. And Tina, oh my gosh, you are so inspiring. You are a leader for the next generation, and we hope that we see a lot of Tinas in the future. So thank you and congratulations to you. Well, this conference is coming to an end, but before we leave, I would like to thank Latina Style. And of course, you know, as Tina said, thank you so much to Tanya, who worked behind the scenes. I'd also like to thank Patricia and Cynthia for inviting me. And as you all know, this type of event could not be possible without the support of local partners and sponsors. So I would like you to please welcome Noemi Garcia from Nationwide, who will be providing closing remarks on behalf of Nationwide, the title sponsor of the business series. Noemi?
Hi, and thank you so much. On behalf of Nationwide, I want to thank you all for being a part of the Latina Style Business Series. We really hope that you've enjoyed listening to such an accomplished group of business owners and business experts, and that you've walked away with some valuable insights and resources to help you during this current economic climate. Nationwide also commends Robert, Tanya, the entire Latina Style team, as well as our speakers for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your insights to help support our community of Latina business owners. I know that I've walked away really inspired and empowered. This has been amazing, and thank you for letting me be a part of it. And I also want to congratulate again Albuquerque's Entrepreneur of the Year, Tania Cordova, and Founders Award honoree Rudy Becerra. Oh my gosh, just listening to your stories, thank you for the impact that you're making in your communities. As a young leader, it's great to know that there are people that I can aspire to and look up to. And I know that you've inspired me personally. So thank you for that. I also just want to encourage everyone to visit our Business Solutions Center to view our 3-part online business builder program that was created in partnership with Ramiro Cavazos team at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And that is nationwide.com/big legacies. So with Latina businesses being the fastest growing businesses in the country, Nationwide just wants to congratulate each and every one of you for the impact that you are making in your community and your families with your businesses. And on behalf of the entire Nationwide family, thank you so much for being here today. And please remember that Nationwide está a tu lado. Thank you.
Thank you, Noemi, and nationwide for your continued support. And now please welcome back Patricia Lee Chavez, the human dynamo, and Cynthia Jaramillo, co-chairs of the 2020 Latina Style Business Series in Albuquerque. Patricia.
Thank you so much, Carla. I really appreciate it. And of course, I have a few comments, Roberto, so don't get scared. I want to acknowledge that almost 1 year ago, during the USHCC convention here in Albuquerque, that would not have happened without our primera Latina Hispana executive director for One Albuquerque Economic Development, our very own Cynthia Jaramillo. Had she not gone to DC with her team from Albuquerque, New Mexico to invite and secure the conference, we would have never reconnected with our associates and friends from Latina Style magazine during their 25th anniversary acknowledgement from USHCC. Thank you for USHCC and the leadership of Roberto Bard and Lupita Comanada, the Vice President of Latina Style magazine, for bringing this event back to Albuquerque. Now the Latina Style Business Series is a reality and returns to Albuquerque in our land of enchantment, the Tierra del Encanto, almost after 14 years later from 2006. And as one of our coordinating team members then for LSBS, I'm now happy that this year, during 2020, about and on their return as co-chair with Cynthia Jaramillo to this exceptional conference in One Albuquerque. Gratitude to all of our community partners that you've seen listed on the Latina Style magazine virtual conference. Thank you so much. This would not have happened without them. So in reflection, and during this special period of our history, during this 2020 COVID survival time, we are all doing things differently. Sí se puede. And in spite of our difficulties, I asked you all to get ready. Yes, because at the end we'll offer a personal toast. But right now, let me give you some reflections, particularly now in this time of COVID. I will challenge each of our Latina entrepreneurs, our panelists, and all of those that have joined us. I challenge each of you to push past the negative messages, push past the indirect or direct personal slights and microaggressions, push past those individuals that purposely offend us or others that you care for, push past those who ignore your quest for a better tomorrow as you sustain your personal mission, your values, and your future while opening doors for others in building your business and bringing on others that you move through those areas with you. Push past those people who tell you to stay in your place, stay in your lane, don't move out of that lane. Make a commitment personally to mentor and bring other young Latinas, entrepreneurs, youth entrepreneurs forward. Push past that adobe ceiling, which I have coined in the state of New Mexico, and all those that are here today, please help others follow in your place. We need those future leaders. So move towards the light, maintain our corazones de la luz, and now I will turn it to my co-chair, Cynthia Jaramillo.
Thank you, Patricia. And it is always incredibly hard to follow you. So thank you for sharing your insight and your encouragement. And thank you for being a mentor to so many. I will be brief and say that on behalf of Mayor Tim Keller and the beautiful city of Albuquerque, thank you, Robert, Tanya, thank you to Latina Style Magazine. Congratulations to Tina Cordova and Rudy Becerra. Tina, a Latina operating in the construction industry is incredibly challenging. So I commend you for your hard work, your steadfast persistence in breaking through those adobe ceilings. I like to refer to them as bulletproof, but Patricia reminded me that they are adobe, so we can get through them together. And also, Tina, wanted to say thank you for recognizing our neighbors to the south. Thank you for sharing your truth. It's powerful. And thank you, an incredibly extraordinary thank you to my co-host, amiga, my mentor, Patricia Chavez. And I will just leave you with this. Because I'm a data geek, it's important that we follow the data. And I'd like to point out that Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative's research highlights the ongoing impact of COVID-19 on Latina and Latino-owned businesses. And when following up with a group of Latino-owned businesses that took a survey back in March, and in their first pulse of this survey, they highlighted the effects of the pandemic were both immediate and largely negative for Latinos. And for the same group of businesses between March and June, the overall impacts remain negative. However, the negative impact on business operations seems to be growing. They also found that employer businesses as a whole are experiencing universal negative impacts for the pandemic. And in their national sample of Latino-owned employer businesses, research continues to find that Latinos have fewer resources to weather the ongoing storm. So on the whole, despite not being able to access PPP funding at the similar rate of our white counterparts, Latina-owned businesses remain equally optimistic about being able to recover from the negative impacts and effects of the pandemic. While the future for many remains uncertain, it's important that we collectively continue to gather data on the ongoing and long-term impacts of the pandemic for the Latina and Latino business community. We're truly an essential and rapidly growing part of the United States economy. And with that, again, thank you on behalf of the city of Albuquerque. And I think I need to turn it over back to Roberto, yes.
I'm here. I was just a little bit, I was a little bit shy because I didn't want to piss off Patricia. You know how Patricia, when they said you think, who can move Patricia out of the way to get something done? When she gets in there, she is like the tidal wave that is moving everything. So, Patricia, I really would like to thank you so much for everything, for your friendship through the years. I would like to thank you for your sin pelos en la lengua, como decimos, for laying down the law. Cynthia, you've been amazing. Thank you so much to all our panelists. They've done an incredible job.
It's enough for him to follow, at least up to his.
I hope you think you'll.
Okay, something got in there. At the same time, I would like to thank the mayor, Mayor Tim Keller, for his remarks, and also our Lieutenant Governor for taking the time to present his remark, también Howie Morales. I had a chance to work with your governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, while she would do her stint in Washington, D.C., and thank her as well for everything that she's doing for the state. But most of all, I want to thank every single one of you who participated today. I would like to thank, of course, Nationwide for their continued support. And like Rudy said earlier, or everybody knows so well, nothing gets done by a person alone. All of that, whenever you give an award, whenever you make a presentation, you truly are giving it to the team that put it together. So from all of us at Latina Style, especially I would like to thank my wife, Lupita Colmenero. Without Lupita, to be honest with you, I don't get anything done. And all my staff, they're women. They're really committed young ladies of every demographic, from millennials to actually not only millennials, from the boomers all the way down to whatever they are right now, to triple Xers. Not triple Xers, but triple, not that, but of every single demographic, and they keep us young. um, it is a challenge actually to try to pass on the things that I've learned through the years to the younger generation. And I hope that all of you are taking care of that, because our children really, they really don't know that well what has happened before. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to also recognize Governor Jerry Apodaca, because Jerry was, like I said, a major mentor in my life, and not only him, but Clara as well. And maybe when we get to Albuquerque next year, we'll be able to still honor him for all the things that is done. And I have stories about the governor that you wouldn't believe. Like I said, I travel all over the country with him. So it was 24/7 all over the country, and all the stories that I learned about all the other politicians, Hispanic politicians in the nation. So, I'd like to say a story that still bears true today. And that is, when we were beginning our careers, when we were starting our journey, we were all descendants of the King of Spain or descendants of whoever it is, the king, the duke, whatever. And as our careers took a little bit of success through the years, by the time we got to where we are today, we love to tell the stories how we did it with nothing. We were walking up the hill barefooted, we were sleeping on dirt, that everything that has been accomplished because of the soul work that we do. But that is not true. There's thousands of people that have helped us along the way. To me personally, to our team at Latina Style, to our community. The most unbelievable thing that I think that has happened through the years is, who in the right mind would have thought that we would have a Latina Supreme Court Justice, Sonia Sotomayor. If you see the incredible challenges that are going now about that, imagine what it was like to bring Associate Justice Sotomayor to the court. And she's doing a wonderful job, and we look forward to others to come to the court. Who knows what's going to happen? One of the things that Patricia mentioned is that we really need to begin to extend our hands to each other and really embrace each other. And your first Latina governor was a Republican, Susana Martinez, right?
Yes.
Now you have a governor that is the Latina Democrat. There was a time where everybody could work together, and that is where we need to go back. We need to go back together, because that's the only way we're going to lift our community up. Carla, there is nothing that I can say that will really make justice to what a wonderful person you are and what a wonderful example you are for us. And so from all of us at Latina Style, to all of you, we would like to, let me see if I can grab my cup again. Carlos, thank you so much.
Yes, and we have the last toast, right, Roberto?
Yeah, and te lo paso.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thanking Latina Style Magazine, Roberto, Robert, Bard, Lupita, the entire team, Tanya. Let us lift up one another in these days. Let us move towards the light, maintain our corazones en la luz, and lift our glasses up together for a better tomorrow. Salud, Latina Style Business Series 2020, Albuquerque, Nuevo Mexico.
Salud. Salud.
Gracias a todos.
Y a usted.